Hello everyone, welcome again to one of our lectures. It's been long time. I think it's been a really long time since I met you guys. Please tell me if I'm audible or not first, and then I can just proceed. Let me see. Uh, I'm still waiting for some few response. If I'm audible, I can. Yes. Good evening. Good evening, Sumit. Sharat. Good evening. Good evening. So I hope I am audible. Okay, perfect. That is good. Okay, so today agenda is very simple. We'll try to understand some common terms in economics. I'm sure I got a lot of requests from many students. They said, sir, all other subjects we have read till class 10, but economics is not something that we are very comfortable with. So I thought, let me take up those topics, and that these are words which you hear day in and day out. So I've kind of collated them, and I'll try to see I can make it simple and make you understand. But this is economy. This will be hardcore economics. So please bear with me if some terms are really difficult. But trust me, there is absolutely nothing to worry about it. I'll ensure that every single one of you will understand every single nuance or concept which is involved in it. Okay. So with this we can understand. Okay. Chalo. Let's get started. Okay, so what exactly is economics? There is a famous saying: if you put 6 economists in a room and ask them what economics is, you will get 7 different views. So that's how controversial, or not say controversial, how different it is to different people. But one thing which is common and widely accepted these days is not about money, or it's not about what you want to do, etc. It's about understanding scarcity. Scarcity is the underlying for all economics that we read or know or we try to understand. What exactly is scarcity? You must have always heard of things like there are no free lunches, or just imagine you are giving up a lot of other things, and you are sitting here looking at me, listening to me, trying to understand economics. You are definitely giving up on something, right? Same for me also. I could have just played with my daughter here, or you could have just watched a movie, or you could have prepared for some other subject. So there is always a trade-off what we choose. Okay, so I have chosen to come and sit in front of you, and you have chosen over your movies or spending time with your parents, or preparing for other subjects. You thought that this very activity will give you more value. Okay, and thus comes the concept of opportunity cost. So what is the next best and if we are rational being, if we are rational, we will always choose something which maximizes our output, right? So in this scarce resource, in this world wherein we are always struggling for doing one thing versus other, we have only 24 hours, right? And in that also 8 hours goes in sleeping, and then you have work, then you have other thing, and then you have to plan your work and sleep kind of becomes mandatory. You can reduce them, but then there is very limited time and we have to do so many things. So you trade off unconsciously or consciously. We are doing economics every day, and if we are rational, we will try to choose things which will add more value to us. Okay, that's the entire concept. If I have to generalize entire economics, the overview of it, that is it. Scarcity, always trade off, and you always choose where you maximize your utility. Okay, so that therein comes the opportunity cost. Now you feel that I am adding 50 generally, and how do economics is social science. First, please try to understand, it's not an exact science. So you have term called util. So your utility is basically measured in utils. So if you think by sitting in this lecture and listening to me for next 2 hours, you are able to add 100 utils. That means your next best alternative, whatever it may be, it was not adding up to 100, and that is why you have chosen. Otherwise, you have made an irrational choice. Okay, I hope this part is clear. This forms the basis. That is why I have spent so much time. I hope you are able to understand. Okay. Okay, someone just asked, can I differentiate between micro and macro? That's whether we study micro or macro, this is common. Okay, scarcity, trade-off, opportunity cost remain same. Now, what exactly is micro? Micro is in its name itself, it is something which we talk about the individual firm, individual being. So we are talking about one single aspect. In an economy, you are choosing particular agents, you are choosing a particular individual, how he will behave, you are choosing a particular industry, how you will behave, how it will behave. So that becomes micro, analyzing it onto the one-to-one basis, just choosing me, what are my preferences, what are my desires, what are my needs, how do I save, how do I invest. So everything related to one. When it becomes macro, it is overall picture. How does the country overall behaves? How do they save? How do they invest? What are their needs? What are their wants? And then if I talk about, say, industry in micro terms, what is its break-even cost? What is what is its average revenue? What is its marginal revenue? What is its marginal cost? All those calculation we'll do in micro. When we are talking about macro, we will be more interested in what all industries together, in general do. So what kind of investment they are doing, what kind of subsidies they are getting from government, what kind of tariffs are being imposed in their market. So if you look from the holistic, from overview, you get the macro picture. When you try to get into the detail of each and every industry, you get into details of micro. Okay, that's the broad difference. So I understand micro is also very important. Today's agenda will be mostly focused around macro, because there is a lot of terms there, and something which you read in newspaper in day and out, and most likely you will be interviewed on or tested upon. Okay, so let me move forward. One country will not be micro, honestly, if you kind of say make it a world economy and then you choose, and if you try to justify, somehow it becomes a micro, but not really. A country, when you are understanding a behavior of the country, because these will have many ingredients in them, right? So when you come down to me, there is only cells and atoms inside me, you cannot dig down deeper. That's where micro is. Whereas if I take a country and try to read it and try to analyze it, there will be different individual behaving differently, right? So it will give me a macro picture, not a micro picture. I hope that is clear. Okay, so these were three fundamental things on which both micro and macroeconomics, depend upon. Okay, so let's see. I talked about opportunity cost, and first, don't get demoralized. What we are just trying to scratch the surface here. Okay, this is one question. This is very interesting. I've just put it. Take 5, 10, 30 seconds, read it, try to answer it. Even if you get wrong, I'll tell you why you should not worry about it. Okay, so let me see how many of you can actually answer this question, and then we will talk about. Understanding India is macro. I have already defined it, no? You don't understand GST? Read about GST. It's as simple as that. Not really, don't get into that. Micro relative to the world, no. Wherein, you have individual agents, then we'll talk about micro. When we are talking about country, it's macro. Let's not get into that. Kunal, Subhajit says 0, Kunal says 10. Okay. Wow, many correct answers. I'll say, the correct answer is 10. But how you are doing it is important. If you are just randomly guessing, it's again not a problem. But okay, I'll tell you why did I put it. So this question was posed to economics PhD students, and surprisingly only 7% of them got it correct. Okay, so that is why I had put this question. Understanding opportunity cost is very simple, and even in your interview when you go, or in exam, your cost of your next best alternative, the value that you derive from your, or the foregone best benefit other than what you are doing. Okay, but it becomes much difficult. If I want to pose a question which is really difficult, I can really make it for you. Okay, so this was put to the economics PhD student. Nothing to worry, they got it because they overthought. Maybe that could be the only reason. There is nothing very difficult about this question. If you will see, 1 is 0, 1 you have already chosen. Next best alternative, how much are you foregoing? you are only foregoing that $10 which you are saving on that day, otherwise it will be same. Okay, it was as simple a question as that. Okay, but people got it wrong because they overthought it. Okay, so do not worry about it. That is why I just gave you, economics is all about understanding, thinking. It's about playing with numbers. So try to embrace it. Okay. Okay, perfect, very good. Let's move forward now. There are many economic school of thought. Let me just remove myself from here. So these are 5 broad economics school of thought. Okay, so Keynesian is very important, and I hope all of you know about John Maynard Keynes. He was one of the most famous economists of 20th century, and he gained prominence when after depression, after the big depression in America, wherein people were still believing in invisible hand, and they thought that economy will get back to normal, which could have. Generally what is said is this. Okay, just look at this graph. It's very simple. Okay, so your aggregate supply and aggregate demand, if this was your equilibrium. Okay, so what has this is your supply, this is your demand, this is your price, this is your quantity. Okay, so I'm just doing for the individual now. So if this in fact I should write price level, and Q here basically becomes your total quantity demanded. Now if this aggregate demand falls, okay, it's very simple. It's just simple maths. I am quite sure all of you are mathematics students who have cleared SBI, PO, etc. So the aggregate demand has fallen. It has shifted from here to here. So what happens? In the economy, basically the prices have come down. This is the phase of recession. So what is generally believed, in long run, the prices of the factor, etc., will again come into play, and the economy will again move forward in the normal direction. But what John Maynard Keynes said, why do you have to wait for this suffering? Okay, so he proposed that government should intervene. This decrease in demand, it should not be given its own time. It's a very famous saying, in the long run we are all dead. Okay, so when he said that, he meant that automatically it will be correct. Maybe it will take 20 years. Why do you want people to suffer for 20 years? Government should intervene and bring up this demand again to its original level. So that is what was Keynesian approach. So now if you look at these factors, this is very important formula, which is Signex, is how I call it generally. This is consumption, stands for C, that is your and my consumption in the economy. I, this is investment. It is investment by all the businesses into their technology, into their goods. This is G. G stands for government. So everything that government spends, either it is for building bridge or it is buying goods for its defense personnel, it's all government spending. And then you have XN, which is net of export. So export minus import. So this constitutes your final aggregate demand, you can say. Okay. Demand supply, I'll come to it. Do not worry about it, Vinith. I'll come to it. It's just, I'm just showing you about different schools of thought. So for that, I just have kind of tried to gone a step further. Do not worry about it. Even if you do not understand the graph, there is nothing to worry about. Just listen to what these school of thoughts say. Okay. Okay. So Keynesian said that whenever this aggregate demand, now suppose in this, if I have to remove this, now this equation, which is C, I, G and Nx, this total hundreds. Okay, now during recession what happens is consumption of people, you stop buying, you are you having less and less money at disposal. This has gone down by some 80%, and let's assume this was 5, this was 5, and this was what, 10 initially, and now this goes down to, let's say, 60. Okay, so this has 100 becomes 80. So what Keynes says, that government should make up for this balance 20. Okay, I hope I'm just making it very clear with the help of numbers also. Okay, so with help of this, what happens, this demand actually goes back to 100, your current demand goes, so your GDP does not suffer. Okay, that was the view of Keynes. Okay, now Classical, that is what the initial graph which I had drawn. So they say let it come down to its equilibrium on its own. Okay, it will come down on its equilibrium. It will reach its equilibrium on its own. That was the classical views. Laissez-faire means non-intervention by the government. So it says supply creates its own demand, invisible hand theory, etc. That was all classical thinking. All right. Now these guys are Vienna economists or the monetarist economists. They are also called neoclassical. They also believe in non-interference by the just read it, aggregate demand. Do not A is your aggregate demand. Okay. So what happens here is your neoclassical guys are also same as classical when they they talk about role of government. So how are these thoughts are different? Just see the first one. Keynesian says government should intervene. Okay, classical says no. Every economy supply creates its own demand and it will happen over the time, things will fall in place. Monetarist says everything, the entire play is of money, the money supplied. This is quantity theory of money equation, which is very famous equation. Do not worry about it, we will come to it. I am just giving you a kind of overview here. So what this monetarist says, this is the total money supplied, how many times that money is moving. I hope you have seen all my lectures on banking awareness, so this will not be any problem. And this is your PV or sorry, PY. Y is your GDP, okay, and this is your real GDP, okay, into whatever your the price. This is your real output, I should say, and whatever is your current price. So if your output does not change and I just keep increasing money supply, only thing which will change is price. Okay, that is what quantity theory of money says. Okay, so MV is equal to PY. I'll come to it. Just try to understand what I am trying to say here. This is just different school of thoughts. One says government should intervene, classical says no. Third, monetarists also say they should not intervene, and they believe that money is the sole factor for governing the economy, whereas here supply was thought to be the real driver. Similarly, supply sides say empathizers, they also believe that you should work on creating supply. It's not about demand, it's about creating supply. If supply is taken care of, everything else will automatically take care of. So you should central government should give cut taxes, it should give subsidies to people who are producing, etc. This is what we should do. So this is what your supply siders say. Okay, then your rational expectation theory, this is the latest, and they say that in this world where information is freely available, information expectation negates government policy. So government cannot surprise us anyways. So whatever they do, it is useless. That is their thinking. Okay, and economy adjusts immediately to changes. Okay, and Phillips curve, will come to it. Do not worry about it when we get to unemployment. But it is vertical. That is their belief. So 5 school of thought. One says government should intervene. Rest 4 things. In fact, rest 3 think they should not intervene. Supply sider think should supply side also wants to government to intervene, but only for increasing supply. Okay, whereas Keynes, he wants government to intervene to also increase the demand. Okay, that is all it is. Okay, so these were 5 school of thought. I've just given you a broad overview. Okay, now so whatever we have seen so far, okay, I have given you the broad overview, and I talked about scarcity, right? Scarcity, I talked about trade-off, okay, and I talked about opportunity cost. Okay, now all these things, if I try to kind of bring it into a concept, nothing explains is better than production possibility curve. Okay, this is PPC, which is nothing but production possibility curves. What does it say? It's very interesting, and it's the culmination of these 3 things that we have started our lecture with. Scarcity, which is we all know that we cannot have everything. Okay, we have to make trade-off, and there is an opportunity cost. So if you look at it, now there in an economy, you can either produce pizzas or you can produce robots. Either you can produce 4 pizza or whatever, 5 pizzas here, or you can produce 10 robots. Okay, that is what a economy can do. Okay, so that's the trade-off they have. Okay, so either I can do this 10 or this 4. So what should I do? Okay, so if I have to look at this curve and I have to think about what I should do, now I'll look at what are other possibilities. Now if I want to have only robots, I will just produce 10 robots and I will not produce any pizza. Now next I move to 9. Okay, and roughly I am leaving, say now I am asking for 9 robots and 1 pizza basically. Now then again if you will see, I am getting 8 and 2. Okay, again let me just give, now see the third one to get the 4th pizza basically. So this is 1, 2 and your 4 pizza I am getting. Now if I want to give, this is 6, right? Now if I want to get the 5th pizza, I have to lose all 6. So basically I will lose all 6 robots to get the next. This phenomena, okay, and why does this happen? Just think logically over it. So if the entire economy produces only robots, that means either they are all skilled producing only robots, but we have seen if they had left it, they could have also produced 5 pizzas. So try to understand it conceptually. There were some people who were forced into producing robots who were also good at producing pizzas. Okay, so when you start removing them, okay, so these guys, each of them will start producing extra pizzas. Now when you come to this phase, just look at this. Anyways, this economy was good in producing robots. All right. Now if these guys are good in producing robots, if they lose, for making this 1 extra pizza, they have to lose their 6 robots. What does this mean? This clearly means that these 6 guys were highly skilled in making robots, whom you have now forced into making pizzas. Okay, so this law basically is, in an economy, generally you will have a case wherein few people are skilled in doing a certain set of work, whereas others are good in doing other set of work. So you should try to find that equilibrium level. Otherwise, this is called the law of increasing opportunity cost. You see, for getting 1 pizza, you lost only 1 robot. For again getting 1 pizza, you lost 1 robot. Again 2 pizza, 2 robot. But here, if you look at it, to gain 1 pizza, you lost 6 robots, right? So this is a huge loss. You will not like to do such sacrifice, right? I hope this part is clear. This is very important in understanding even further all the topics that we take up. Now production possibility curve can also be a straight line curve. What does this mean? This is 10, this is 10, this is shoes, this is clothes. Okay. Now what does it say? If I have a straight line production possibility curve, what does it mean? For losing every 1 shoe, I will keep getting 1 cloth. And what does it talk about the the laborers there? They are equally equipped in producing either shoes or clothes, right? I hope this is clear. Okay, so please try to understand these are just basic terms, nothing else. Please try to at least for next 2 hours, please listen to me at least. Let's see how much you can remember. Okay. So I've just talked about the law of increasing opportunity cost, because of at a time in the economy you will reach a point, if it is board inside, if it's something like this, then basically it happens, you will, to gain just 1 unit here, a smaller unit here, you have to forego a large unit here. Okay, so that's law of increasing opportunity cost. 2 kinds we saw, one straight line where law of increasing opportunity cost does not apply. And what exactly is this? Is your production possibilities, what an economy can produce. This is very important. You have to understand, this is how your entire economy moves. You have to understand this concept to understand economy. Okay. Okay, let's move to kind of try to dig it a bit deeper. Okay, the production possibility curve. This forms the essence of all macroeconomics, guys. You have to understand it. Otherwise, you'll have you become bankers and you will have absolutely no clue about what is happening in the world. Okay, you will be only then mostly doing gossip mongering. Okay, try to understand what is happening here. Okay, so what does production possibility curve say? Okay, between the two goods that we have talked about, this is all the possibilities that we can, this is what we can produce, an economy can produce. If you are producing anything inside this curve, right, anything, any possibility, if you can say this is like 10 and 10 of this, and you choose to produce only 5 of this and 3 of this, okay, then basically you are doing inefficient work. Your economy is suited to produce either 10 of this or 10 of this, or any point here on this curve. Any point outside is unattainable. That means you cannot produce it. Okay. Now, there are two kinds of goods basically a country can produce, and this is this will tell you why a country is good in doing something and why a country keeps progressing, and whereas other countries do not progress. So if you invest in the capital good, in the two examples that I have taken, robots and pizzas, if this country which keeps producing robots, ultimately it is investing in capital good, and that is more likely to give it growth. Whereas if the countries which were producing only pizzas or consumer good, they are more likely to not invest in technology, and hence their over the time their growth will not happen. Okay, so okay, I understand some of you saying that it is just going above your head. Just listen to this concept. Just remember there is a concept called production possibility curve. Okay, let's move to the next important concept. You may be asked, who knows what your bankers will ask. Last time someone said he read the entire current affair, and the first question that he got was, what is GDP? Okay, we are the nationalist feeling, how Trump is behaving, the trade is suffering now. What is that? What is the basis behind trade? What exactly is trade? How does it help economies? That is what I'm trying to explain to you guys. Okay, so now your production possibility curve that I have just shown you, this is nothing but the power of your economy. In simple words, if someone asks you what exactly is production possibility curve, it is the power of the economy, what an economy can produce. Okay, and its various combination, how it can increase if it continues to invest in technology. So their production possibility curve will increase. It will start producing more of the other goods. Okay, now there is other way through which you can gain, or you can increase your production possibility curve. This is the real growth. The GDP that you keep talking about, that is shifting of the production possibility curves outward. That is the growth. When economists talks about growth, what they are talking about, it is shifting of production possibility curve. And what exactly is production possibility curve? It is your combined capacity. It's your combined energy of an economy to produce something. Okay, why are we comparing pizzas to robot? Both these things can be produced in an economy. That is why I have taken this example. You can choose to do one, you can choose to do a combination of, you can choose to do just one. Okay, now whereas this was one way of continuously investing in the technology and expanding. The second way of increasing or attaining a point which is outside your production possibility curve is trade. Okay, now what exactly is trade? There are two terms which you have to know when we talk about trade. This is either absolute advantage or comparative advantage. It's very simple. Don't just force your brain to shut down and not listen to anything. Please try to understand what I'm trying to tell here. Okay, so say nation A has this capacity of producing say 20 units of wheat and 20 units of computer. Okay, this is what it can do. So its production possibility curve will be something like this. Okay, and the other one or if it moves like this, you do not exactly know. And the other one is like 16 and 8, right? So this is wheat and this is computer. This is your wheat and this is computer. This is what they can produce. This is the maximum that they can produce. Okay. So, but if you look at this, say individually, who can produce more of wheat? A very simple question. Definitely nation A can produce 20 units, so it is having the absolute. Whoever can produce most, it is having absolute advantage. So simple. In computer also, who is producing more? Computer is nation A. So that is having the absolute advantage. Now the second term, these are, so ideally what it says in trade, someone who is having the superiority should produce the good in which it has absolute advantage, but generally it is not possible, because if it keeps just doing one product, it will not be able to do the other product any which ways. So it has to find which product should country A produce and which product should country B produce. And there will always be a case wherein one country should produce one of the good and the other should produce other of the good. Now this is something to understand here. Now to produce one wheat, essentially how much wheat how many computer it is foregoing? Okay, so this is just 1 unit, right? So if it produces, it was 2020, right? So if it just produces, if it leaves one wheat, or if it leaves one computer, it will produce one extra wheat, right? So if it leaves 20 of the computer, it will produce 20 of wheat. Similarly, for the nation B, this is if it leaves, say for producing one computer, it has to leave 2 wheats, right? Therefore, when it leaves 16 wheat, it produces 8 computer. Okay, this is simple, just the fraction, nothing else. So this is 20 by 20, so it is 1:1. This is 16 by 8, so this is 2:1 or 2:half. So basically this is their ratio, what they have to forego. So what does comparative advantage say? You should forego something which you have to basically essentially forego the less quantity. So who should forego the wheat production? It has to for producing wheat, it has to forego half computer, whereas for producing wheat, the country B has to forego only half computer. So who should forego producing the wheat, or sorry, the computer basically? So if you will see, so these guys are for producing wheat, he has to sacrifice more on computer. For producing wheat here, he has to sacrifice less on computer. So this guy should completely, this A should leave the wheat and get into computer. Okay, whereas this nation, which has to leave less of computer, should keep producing the wheat. Okay, let's assume you did not understand a word of it. Okay, but whenever if you are asked, or if you see a question like this, there is a very simple technique to do this. Okay, just cross multiply and see. This is 16 into 20, this is 320. Tricks, that is what you keep looking for. This is 8 into 20, this is 160. Whatever that cross pair is coming, right, that would be your answer. So this is, this is 20 computer and this is 16 wheat. So this is A should produce computers and B should produce wheat. That is your answer. Okay, so A should keep producing computer and B should keep producing wheat, because it has to forego lesser computer to produce wheat. That is the entire concept behind trade. The entire trade that this world is having today lies on the principle of comparative advantage. Okay, if you do not even understand this, if someone asks you what is the rationale behind trade, why do people encourage trade, why do economists talk about trade, it is to maximize your comparative advantage. Simple. Okay, yes, but it has equal absolute advantage, it has, but it has comparative advantage. If it comparative advantage, you don't compare between wheat and computer of a nation. Comparative advantage will be between the two countries. So he is foregoing one computer, he is foregoing half computer. Who should forego computers? Someone who is foregoing half computer. Definitely let someone who will have to produce, who will have to forego one computer, basically let him produce computers. It's as simple as that. Okay, so absolute advantage, you look only at countries individually. When you're talking about comparative, compare A versus B. So for producing wheat, A was supposed to forego one computer, but for foregoing your for B, only half computer foregoing could let him produce one wheat. So let this guy forego computer and let him produce computer. It's as simple as that. Sanjeet says now he's getting everything. Have patience, guys. This is new to you. You want to learn new things also, and then you do not want to keep patience also. Okay, and even if you did not have any clue about it, just type comparative advantage and take 10 questions. You'll get them all correct. Simple. Cross multiply. This is a simple trick. This gives you 320. This gives you what does this give you basically? This is giving you 160. So whatever is greater, just choose that combination. So basically you are choosing this and this. That means A produces this and B produces this. Simple. You will get it right all the time. Okay. What is meant by largest trading partner? With whom you trade the most. Simple. So this was given by David Ricardo, I think in 1817. This theory is as old as that. Okay, so now if I have to sum up everything, scarcity we learnt about. Okay, so because of scarcity you have to make trade-offs. Because of trade-offs, basically how you will make trade-off? By looking at the opportunity cost. What is the foregone value in your next possible thing? This gives rise to production possibility curve. What is production possibility curve? It gives you a good visualization of the power of a country in terms of what it can produce. Now you can increase this power by investing in technology. Okay, you can invest in technology and you can increase this power, your production possibility curve, you can increase outward. Or the other way is by trading with a partner who can complement you. How the complement is done is by looking at two things basically: comparative advantage and absolute advantage. Okay, absolute not really. If you are trading, you are looking only at comparative advantage. How do we look at comparative advantage? We compare the two countries, the things that we want to trade, and we see a partner country, a trading country, what he has to forego in order to produce this. Whoever has to forego the lesser of things will produce that thing, right? So B nation had to forego the other quantity, only half of it, so B will produce wheat. Whereas if you look at this, there were two wheat which B had to forego to produce a computer, whereas nation A had to forego only one wheat to produce computer. So who will leave producing computer? Definitely B, and country A will keep producing computers. This is the summary so far. This is how we make choices. This is the concept of scarcity, opportunity cost, trade-off and trading. I hope at least now you have understood some part of it. Okay, do not jump directly into the real world economy. There is trade, tariffs, there is a lot of things going. First understand the basic, guys. First understand the basics. Okay. Okay, now what do we have here is kinds of economies. Now basis all this, you have different economies. Now what exactly are the economic decisions? So you would have learnt about what to produce, how to produce, and for whom to produce. Okay, so these are three big economic questions that an economy generally takes. Basis what the answer is and who is making this decision, an economy can be classified on on this basis. So market economy, it's like free enterprise. Everything is it's like the free hand, the classical theory that we just saw. It says individual owns and operates factor of production, no intervention from government, invisible hand, the supply will all supply will have its own demand, etc. That's the market economy. Command economy we all very well know. What happens in absolute advantage is the old concept, Madhu, wherein people thought, since I am good in doing this, I should do this. They do not understand the value of comparative advantage and how by trade. So absolute concept of absolute advantage was challenged by David Ricardo, and he said how you can maximize your utility, your utils by trading. That is why the concept of your comparative advantage came. Okay, so this is just a part of slide. I'll just tell everything. So market economy, free hand, everything is free, no intervention. Command economy is, the government takes the control. Okay, society or government takes, so that's socialism or communism. Generally in your China, you see, in your Laos or Cuba, all those socialist country, you will see. So there everything, the means of production is owned by the government, and they decide how much to produce, for whom to produce, and what to produce. Okay, that's command. Traditional economy, most of the economy which are still based on your aggregating and hunting, basically they are not yet into trade. They are mostly closed economy. They really do not care about comparative and absolute advantage. They are happy the way they are. Okay, and then this is the mixed economy, which all the economies today are. A part of it, government intervenes. A part of it is given to the individuals to do it. Okay, so Russia will fall in mostly command economy. It's a hybrid, I will say, but mostly we know everything is in control of Putin. So yes, you can say that. Okay, so let us, we have just seen the 4 kinds of economy. Market, no intervention, generally not true. It's ideal scenario. Command economy, like China, where the country as all the the government decide what has to be done in the economy. Traditional is still agrarian economy, based on hunting and agriculture, not much of any use. Mixed economy is what we see these days. Most of the economies are mixed. A part of it government intervenes, a part of it is free for people to operate. Okay, the communist is and socialist, the basically is one is owned by the government and other by the society. So you generally hardly have socialism. It's mostly communist. Okay. Okay, now we move to the interesting part. So I hope the broad perspective is clear. Let us now kind of try to dig deeper and try to understand the concept here. Okay, so I'll just come. I can understand, guys, this is totally new to you, but please try to hear me out. Okay, you will try to understand. You will sound literate. Trust me. You are getting into banks, or when you are talking and you sound like you have absolutely no clue about economics. Is what people talk about, right? This is what is growing, what is driving the growth, and this is our economy, right? This is our whatever you and I do. This is what we have to understand. There is no two ways about it. You will sound illiterate. You will sound foolish. You will not be able to open your mouth in an educated society if you do not understand these things. So please try to understand this. I'm just there is I can do 100 of opportunity cost is really very high for me to do these classes. I can just skip it. I don't get anything out of doing these classes for you guys. So please open your eyes and ears. I have some basic understanding which I'm trying to pass on to it. It'll be good for you. Okay, so let us now move to the circular flow, factor payment, subsidy transfer payment. Again, lot of names but nothing to worry about. Okay, what exactly is circular flow? Okay, I'll again move out. Okay, I think okay, let me just move out, not a problem. Okay, so have you ever thought how this economy is working? If you have not visualized this graph, that means how वो बोलते हैं ना, कुएं का मेढक बन करके अभी तक आप अपने सोच में थे. आप थोड़ा बड़ा सोचना शुरू करो, देखने की कोशिश करो कि इकोनॉमी में हो क्या रहा है, तभी बता पाओगे ना. नहीं तो फिर पॉलिटिशियंस ऐसे लोगों को बेवकूफ़ बनाते रहते हैं ना, जिनको पता ही नहीं होता इकोनॉमी में हो क्या रहा है. ओके, Tuntun, if you think that China is a free economy, that shows your economic awareness. Okay, forget about market. They even manage their currency. Please read, guys. This clearly shows you have absolutely no clue about what is happening in the world around you. Absolutely clueless. You can't be this naive to, just leave everything for your politicians and, for God to, help you out of things. You have to try to understand few things on your own. Okay, so these are, the say, what should I say? These are the three elements in an economy. So you have individuals in an economy, you have businesses in economy, and you have government, right? This is three sector economy. So what are individual? You and I as individual, what we do? Just think about it. We go to a product market, जाते हैं ना हम अपने stores में जाते हैं और वहाँ पर we go and buy goods and services, right? And we pay, this market for whatever we have purchased. So आपने हिंदुस्तान लीवर का कुछ खरीदा, अब now is only Unilever. Say आपने Procter and Gamble का you bought something. You bought few things in this supermarket and you paid them. Where is this money going to? This is going back to these guys, right? These businesses. So a part goes to the supply chain, some part goes to the distributor, and then most of the bulk of the money goes to the business who produce them, right? So basically you as an individual bought this money, but where did you get this dollar? आपके पास पैसा कहाँ से आया? Just think about it. Because these businesses basically employed you, right? You also went out for a job. You went into the resource market, you looked for a job. These guys hired you. You worked in this factory. You were the ones who produced these things. Different people will be producing different things. Some will be producing soap, some will be shampoo, some will be producing clothes, some will be producing airplanes, some will be producing. That's not the matter. The idea is to think that we as individual, we went there and produced these things, and in turn of it, which we were paid our wages. These guys then went into the product market and sold this, and we were ourselves, जिनको पैसा दिया था हम उसी पैसे से फिर से ये खरीद रहे हैं. Okay, so this is called the circular flow of economy. If you have never thought about it, think about it now. Okay, so we as an individual are participant at both the places. First, in the resource market, wherein we go and give our services, we become a factor of production as labor, and then the labor is paid its wages when we come back and we go to the product market and buy goods and services again. Okay, so that was only the two part. Now how does this government change things? Nothing. What does government do is it taxes you, it taxes the industries also, okay, and thereby it gets some money. Using this money, what it does, it again goes in the product market. So who is buying the airplanes, the military, military aircraft, submarines? Who is buying them? Our government is buying it, right? So, and how does it manage to buy them? By taxing us. So all the taxes that we pay, where are they, investing it? They are doing one in buying the product, and then by providing us the public good. What is public good? Your roads, okay, your train that government is providing. Okay, so all these things for which you are taxed, the government is actually trying to increase your productivity by investing it in things which will increase your productivity, which is infrastructure. So it will invest in infrastructure also, it will invest in product market also. How is it able to do it? By taxing individuals and businesses. Okay, and then also in the resource market, basically it gives your money. And even here, some of you, all those guys who are preparing for SSC, you are here now. You will be in this resource market who will be bought by the government, and government will pay you money. And again, since you are paid, you will go to the product market, again you will be taxed also. I hope this part is clear, guys. GST के बाद भी tax की importance है. What is the full form of GST? I seriously, I pity myself sometimes. Kajal, how GST के बाद भी taxes की importance है. What is GST, do you think? मतलब किस तरह का क्वेश्चन है यार. Okay, I hope this circular flow, this kind of explains our ignorance in economics. यार कैसे लाइफ चल रही है आप लोगों की. मतलब अगर नहीं आता है, that is not a sin, but not going ahead and reading about it is sin. Okay, and GST takes care of all your indirect taxes. GST is not taking care of your direct taxes. Direct taxes अभी तक abolish नहीं हुए हैं ना. You will still be paying them, right? I hope circular flow समझ में आया. You open your eyes and now think कि इकोनॉमी में हो क्या रहा है, आप क्या क्या कर रहे हो, आप ही चीजें बना रहे हो, आप ही खरीद रहे हो. Businesses are just mean of circulating it. Okay. Okay, someone now asks transfer payment and subsidies. Okay. So what are transfer payments? ये old age pension वगैरह के बारे में सुना है. Unemployment allowances, few countries give it. So all these are transfer payment. Anything for which government is paying you but is not expecting you to do something in return, they are all transfer payments. Okay, and then you have subsidies. And what is subsidies? Is, you know, again gift by the government to the industries, to the businesses. It is giving them and saying, and it is also to the individual also. So transfer payment and subsidies in your cylinder, etc., is also given by the government. And for the business, they say now 20%, tax, or tax rebate subsidy on all green energy produced. Okay. So if you do not burn coal, if you get into solar power manufacturing, so this is means of encouraging an industry. Okay. North Korea is what kind of economy? You answer that. It's command economy. How, even after discussing everything, we are talking about it. Chalo, let's move to now the basics. Okay, I have given you an overview. Now we will see what a demand curve is, what a supply curve is. So when I was mentioning there, I assumed you know a bit about it. Even if you had absolutely no idea about it, not a problem. We will see what is the difference between shift versus move along, what happens when they shift, why they shift. We will see all these now. Okay. So just look at this curve now. Okay. So what exactly is your demand curve? Demand curve is nothing but it says at different price points what are the quantity that you demand. All right. So if this is your initial, this is your D. Okay, the red one. Okay. So this is your initial say quantity demanded. So you can just kind of just see the x and y axis. So at $4,000, what is the quantity demanded? $5. Sorry, 5. Okay, 5 million of some goods. Okay. Now if you look here, okay, at 2,000, what is the quantity demanded? 7. So what we are observing, with every price decrease, okay, the quantity demanded increases. This is the law of demand, which says that whenever prices for a thing fall down, we tend to demand more. Okay. Okay, I think I just completely moved out of screen. So what it says is, whenever there is change in price, whenever there is decrease in price, the quantity demanded increases. Okay. Resource generation? No, not just resource generation. How, when I talked about someone, had asked it before I delved more deeper into it, I told you how you can produce, more. Your production possibility curve basically already takes into account that your entire resource you have already put. This is at full employment. Okay. But if there is new labor which you can add, or if you can increase their productivity, then you can shift. By trade you can shift, by investing in technology you can shift. So how you can increase, or how you can bring about growth in an economy is by investing in technology, by investing in human capital also. So all investment वो नहीं, bond share खरीदना investment नहीं है, यहाँ पर investment is investing in long term growth. So you invest in human capital, you educate your children, you have a more educated workforce, you invest in technology, you get state of art technology. So the same guys who are educated by producing only 20 units, tomorrow with an upgraded technology, these guys will be able to produce 30. That is how you can push your production possibility curve. So efficiently using your existing resources and constantly upgrading them, and upgrading not only the technological aspect of it, but also the human capital also. Okay, I hope that is how we achieve growth. Okay, the higher the price, less the demand, lesser the price, more the demand. Okay, so that is in simple, it's quite commonsensical, right? किसी चीज़ का दाम बढ़ेगा तो आप ज़्यादा खरीदोगे या कम खरीदोगे? कम खरीदोगे नेचुरली. किसी चीज़ का दाम अगर घटने लग जाता है तो आप क्या करते हो? उसको ज़्यादा कंज्यूम करते हो. ठीक है, इसमें एक्सेप्शंस वगैरह हैं, इन्फीरियर गुड, वेबलेंट गुड और वो सब के बारे में अभी नहीं. हम अभी आज पहले बेसिक्स, ठीक है, सबसे पहले बेसिक्स समझने की कोशिश करते हैं. डिमांड शिफ्ट करना और मूव अलोंग द कर्व. ओके, तो अभी पीछे वाले में जब अभी हम ये देख रहे थे, सो देर आर टू थिंग्स दैट कैन हैपन. ओके, बिकॉज ऑफ डिक्रीजिंग और इंक्रीजिंग प्राइजेज यू आर सीइंग that demand is moving along the curve. This is called moving along the curve. Okay, moving along the curve. Okay, so moving along the curve क्या होता है, कब होता है? when you are changing the prices. So more price, lesser demand, less price, more demand. That's movement along the curve. ठीक है, आप कर्व के along move करते हैं. Next, when can your this is called shift of demand. अब क्या होता है, अचानक से रिसेशन आ गया और मेरी सैलरी 30% गवर्नमेंट ने कट कर दी. नाउ विल आई बी एबल टू डिमांड सेम क्वांटिटी एट द सेम प्राइस? नो, राइट. अब मेरे को कम से संतोष करना पड़ेगा, अब मेरे को कम ही गुड्स मिल पाएंगे. सो आई विल नाउ बी एबल टू बाई लेसर ऑफ द गुड एट द सेम प्राइस. आई विल बी एबल टू बाई लेसर एंड लेसर ऑफ द गुड्स. दैट इज द शिफ्टिंग ऑफ डिमांड कर्व. नाउ country is in boom, I get 30% hike. Again, now at the same price I can buy more quantity. Quite commonsensical. Just opposite of what would happen in a recession. What else can shift this curves? Okay, so that is what we will look in the next slide. Now consumer income I just talked about. Okay, अगर recession आया तो घट गया तो क्या होगा, बढ़ गया तो क्या होगा. Next, your number of consumers. Okay, if the number of consumer overall has increased, तो बहुत लोग पहले बेरोजगार थे, मनरेगा आ गया. ओके, सबको गड्ढा खोदने के लिए भी गवर्नमेंट ने पैसे देने शुरू कर दिए. नेचुरली डिमांड विल इंक्रीज. इट वुड हैव डायरेक्ट इंपैक्ट ऑन डिमांड, राइट. इट्स क्वाइट कॉमन सेंसिकल. जिनके पास एक भी रुपया नहीं था, अब उनको दिन के 200-300 रुपये दिहाड़ी के मिलने लग गए और गड्ढा खोदने के मिल रहे हैं. सब जा करके गड्ढा खोद रहे हैं और उनको कुछ ना कुछ ये मिल रहा है. एंड दे आर नाउ पार्टिसिपेटिंग, दे आर इंक्रीजिंग द डिमांड. ओके, कंज्यूमर एक्सपेक्टेशन. मान लो आपको रात को पता चले कि कल से पेट्रोल का दाम 150 रुपये लीटर हो जाएगा, क्या करोगे? जाकर के फटाफट टंकी फुल करोगे ना अपनी. सो दैट्स कंज्यूमर एक्सपेक्टेशन. इफ यू थिंक द प्राइजेज आर गोइंग टू इंक्रीज, यू विल बाई मोर टुडे. इफ यू थिंक प्राइजेज आर गोइंग टू डिक्रीज इन अ मंथ टाइम, सारा का सारा आप अपना परचेजेस कम कर दोगे. ओके, दीज आर थिंग्स विच शिफ्ट डिमांड कर्व, नॉट मूव. मूवमेंट हैपेंस ओनली बिकॉज ऑफ चेंज इन प्राइस. ओके, आई होप दैट पार्ट इज क्लियर. जस्ट कॉन्सेंट्रेट गाइस. नहीं आता था कोई बात नहीं, सीखना ना सीखना ज़्यादा बड़ी प्रॉब्लम है, ना आना प्रॉब्लम नहीं है, बट अनविलिंगनेस टू लर्न दैट इज द ग्रेटेस्ट इविल. ओके, कंज्यूमर टेस्ट एंड प्रेफरेंस. मान लो ये चलता था ना बहुत, हमारा एम्बेसडर वगैरह चलता था, इट वॉज थॉट टू बी प्रेस्टिजियस. कंज्यूमर टेस्ट एंड प्रेफरेंसेस चेंज ना, दे शिफ्टेड टू ऑल्टो, दे शिफ्टेड टू अदर, बट एम्बेसडर कोई खरीदता नहीं है. ओवरऑल डिमांड. अचानक से देर इज अ गुड आईफोन आया, बिफोर दैट टच स्क्रीन एंड ऑल, people were talking about Nokia का E95, E65, I don't even remember those model. They were like, brick, you could, break someone's head, but they were in vogue. As soon as Apple, before Apple, nobody thought that this can change consumer taste and preferences. उसके बाद क्या हुआ, Nokia का खत्म, and all your touch screen phones today, where they are, and it's not very old story, right? 10 years, hardly, I think. Nobody is trying to humiliate you. Okay, I just saw a comment. Nobody is laughing at you. If you are unwilling to learn, then I have serious problem. Please get out now itself. Okay, I'll explain it 10 times if you do not understand, and I do not have problem if you do not understand a thing. But ask, okay? Don't pretend you know something, and don't think that you can do without understanding these things. वो आप हमेशा कुआं के मेढक ही रहोगे. Please try to broaden your horizon. The more we learn, the better we become. Okay? अभी तक हम भी सीख ही रहे हैं यार. Even I don't know everything in economics. I'm barely scratching the surface. That is what I started when I started this lecture. I know very little. मतलब लोग PhD करके बैठे हैं. I'm not done PhD. I have 4 or 5 years of formal education in economics, and whatever knowledge I have, I am sharing. And that's not full. I might be like 5% of what I should know. But I constantly try to learn. I have problem with people who do not want to learn. Okay? ठीक है, तो ये सब चीज़ें समझ में आई. डिमांड कर्व कैसे मूव करता है, क्यों शिफ्ट करता है. डिमांड कर्व सबसे पहले है क्या? कुछ भी नहीं, एक रिलेशनशिप बताता है प्राइस और क्वांटिटी के बीच में. प्राइस ऊपर नीचे होगा तो क्वांटिटी उसके अलॉन्ग मूव करेगा. लेकिन अगर कुछ शिफ्ट हो जाए, ज़्यादा कंज्यूमर आ जाए, कंज्यूमर का टेस्ट प्रेफरेंस चेंज हो जाए, कंज्यूमर की इनकम बढ़ जाए, तो ये सब फैक्टर हो सकते हैं. तुम्हारे कंज्यूमर की एक्सपेक्टेशन चेंज हो जाए, तो इन सब चीज़ों की वजह से पूरा का पूरा डिमांड कर्व कैन शिफ्ट. ओके, योर अदर थिंग्स विच कैन इफेक्ट, मान लो ये तो डायरेक्ट उनके ऊपर, देर इनडायरेक्टली मान लेते हैं कोई दो प्रोडक्ट, मार्जरीन एंड बटर. आई थिंक दिस इज ट्रेडिशनल, ये मेरा एग्जांपल नहीं है. इन ऑल टेक्स्ट बुक यू विल गेट दिस. तो इसमें क्या होता है कि अगर बटर का दाम बहुत ज़्यादा बढ़ने लग जाए, ओके, सो ऊपर जाएगा, बट देन यू विल ऑल्सो सी देर इज शिफ्ट इन डिमांड ना. उसमें क्या होगा, व्हाट हैपेंस देयर विल बी टू इफेक्ट. Ultimately, if the price keep increasing, it will go here. But if you will see, it in fact even shifts. So people shift their preference from butter to margarine. ठीक है, margarine क्या, सस्ता बटर बेसिकली. ठीक है, ऐसे समझ लो आप उसको. तो उसके ऊपर शिफ्ट कर जाएंगे, तो दोनों उस पर प्राइस का मार भी पड़ा, वो ऊपर शिफ्ट होते गया, लेस एंड लेस क्वांटिटी डिमांडेड, एंड पीपल शिफ्टेड टू समथिंग एल्स विच वॉज कॉम्प्लीमेंट्री एंड एट अ लेसर प्राइस. ओके, सो वहाँ पर बोथ थिंग्स विल बी, दैट इज व्हाट दे आर टॉकिंग अबाउट द कॉम्प्लीमेंट गुड. और अगर उनके कॉम्पिटिटिव चीज़ का प्राइस ऊपर नीचे हो जाए तो ठीक है. सो दिस इज द आइडिया ऑफ डिमांड पर से. ओके, अब चलते हैं सप्लाई के ऊपर. सप्लाई का भी सेम है, एकदम कॉमन सेंसिकल. अगर मान लीजिए आप एक सप्लायर है, व्हेन विल यू सप्लाई मोर, व्हेन यू विल गेट मोर वैल्यू फॉर इट. अगर मैं 5 रुपये आज देता हूँ किसी चीज़ का, कल उसके लिए आई स्टार्ट गिविंग यू 20 रुपीज़, यू स्टार्ट ट्राइंग टू प्रोड्यूस मोर आउट ऑफ इट, राइट, मोर ऑफ इट, बिकॉज यू आर गेटिंग पेड 20. सो दैट्स द सप्लाई कर्व का इक्वेशन. सो अगेन there will be two factor, movement along the curve and shifting of curve. We'll see why shifting happens, and we will first see what happens here. So your supply curve, more I increase the price, the more quantity you are supplying to the market, right. दूध का दाम अगर 5 लीटर ही अगर आपको 5 रुपये पर लीटर मिल रहा था, तो आप 5 लीटर प्रोड्यूस करो, 50 लीटर हो जाएगा, आप एक और गाय खरीद लोगे ना. यू विल स्टार्ट प्रोड्यूसिंग मोर, यू विल थिंक अबाउट प्रोड्यूसिंग मोर, you will try to contribute more because you are getting paid more. We all act in our self interest, right. So that is the concept of supply. Supply will keep increasing as the price in the market keeps increasing. All right, very simple, just opposite of demand. जैसे जैसे प्राइस बढ़ता जाएगा तो क्या होगा, आपकी जो क्वांटिटी डिमांडेड है, it will keep decreasing. Okay, so now common sensical, there will be an equilibrium. We'll come to the equilibrium later, but let's see what happens. And because of price again, along the curve, supply shift because of other non-price factor. Why do they change? Again, अगर मान लीजिए कि अचानक से आप मान लो पिज़्ज़ा बनाते थे, ठीक है, आपको 20 रुपये का पिज़्ज़ा था, पहले ये मिल रहा था. अचानक से क्या हुआ, ब्रेड जिसमें उसका what was costing you 10 rupees now started costing you 20 rupees. What will happen? Will you still supply the same quantity of pizzas at 20? You will not be able to. You will make losses. So because of increased prices in the raw material, or since its cost price is increasing, you will be able to give or supply less and less. Now just the opposite, just think opposite. अब क्या होता है, आटा अब 5 रुपये का हो गया. You can think two things, either you will maximize your profit, but बहुत सारे कॉम्पिटिटर होंगे आपके जैसे, they will start passing on the benefit to the consumer, and hence supply curve will again shift. तो अब सस्ते दाम, अगर रिसोर्सेज के दाम सस्ते हो गए तो सप्लाई शिफ्ट कर्व्स राइटवर्ड, देयरफॉर मीनिंग यू सप्लाई मोर क्वांटिटी एट द सेम गिवन प्राइस. इफ इट शिफ्ट्स बैकवर्ड, दैट मीन्स यू आर सप्लाइंग लेसर क्वांटिटी एट द सेम प्राइस. ओके, सो दैट इज शिफ्ट ऑफ say supply curve. Other increase or decrease in the number of producer. अभी लगने लगा लोगों को यार पिज़्ज़ा में तो बहुत ये प्रॉफिट मिल रहा है, तो चलो और देते हैं. मान लो अगर पहले 10 रुपये का प्रॉफिट कमा रहे थे, नेचुरली ज़्यादा लोग आ जाएंगे, सबको कमाना है. धीरे धीरे वो 8, 10, 9 ऐसा एक सस्टेनेंस लेवल का 2 रुपये 3 रुपये का प्रॉफिट का हो जाएगा. अब उस कम से कम दाम पर अब लोग ज़्यादा प्रोड्यूस करना शुरू कर दिए. दिस इज शिफ्टिंग योर सप्लाई कर्व. चेंज इन टैक्स रेट. गवर्नमेंट ने क्या कर दिया कि अब बोला कि नहीं, ये वाले जो जितने भी पिज़्ज़ा इंडस्ट्री है अब उसके ऊपर टैक्स फ्री कर देते हैं. तो बेसिकली उनका कॉस्ट जो था से 100 के ऊपर 15% टैक्स लग रहा था, 115 उनको कंज्यूमर को देना पड़ रहा था. नाउ इट विल कॉस्ट ओनली 100 टू कंज्यूमर. They can again do two things. They will either keep charging 115 or they will pass the benefit and start supplying at 100. So supply curve shift at 100, they will be able to supply same as they were supplying at 115. अगर उन्होंने नहीं pass on किया, again there will be new players coming into and again it will shift backward. I hope this part is clear. You got 98 in boards in economics. Did you even read about production possibility curve? Okay, not a problem. And then if your state of technology changes, अगर पिज़्ज़ा बनाने की टेक्नोलॉजी increases dramatically, same time में same cost पर, now if they are able to produce instead of 20-30 pizzas, naturally I'll be able to same, अगर input cost remains same and I am able to increase my output, that means efficiency increases because of technological upgradation, I'll be able to supply again more. So these are causes of shift in supply curve. Okay. Now, so again, so I think this goes without saying, your let me just move out. Okay. So this was your supply curve and this is your demand curve. ये बचपन से equilibrium सुन रहे हैं ना, this is your equilibrium prices. So this is the price. There will be one price where that supply जो market में at certain price, that quantity which is demanded will intersect. So basically this is at price say rupees 10, the quantity demanded is 10 and also the supply at 10 is meeting. This could be 5, 5, 10, 10, 5, 8, it could be anything. I've just given a random example. Okay. So because of their inverse relationship, they are bound to intersect, right? Okay, so now I was just talking about macro goals. So whenever you talk to anyone who is teaching macroeconomics or in place or in position of or talk about the finance minister, what is his goal today? वो बेचारे life में चाहते क्या हैं? He wants only 3 things. He wants real growth, okay? He wants to control unemployment and he wants to control inflation. People, even RBI now, right, what is their policy? People in power today, they have even, they're not even talking about growth, they're not talking about unemployment, they are just talking about inflation. And they say, all these things are interrelated, and if I just target inflation and if I can keep it, 4 plus minus 2, basically I'll be able to do my job. But macro goals essentially revolves around these 3 things. So anyone asks, what is macroeconomics all about? It's just about these 3 things: providing growth, providing real growth, checking unemployment, and keeping in check in inflation. If a finance minister and RBI governor is able to do that, he has done his job. So this is the perspective from which we will read and understand the macroeconomics. Okay, so we'll take them one by one. Let's see. Okay, so guys, you will not get all these concepts consolidated like this. It's like 4 years whatever training I have done those research and I'm trying to kind of put it in your plate. So you get that, macroeconomics आपने सबने पढ़ी होगी, बहुत अच्छे से पढ़ा होगा, 98 मार्क्स भी लाया होगा, बट इस तरह से सोचा नहीं होगा. कल जब इंटरव्यू में they ask, they will expect you to think like this. That is all I have tried to help you with. If you think you are, already knowing it, please go ahead, do not waste your time. Then your opportunity cost is seriously very high, and you are basically making a wrong choice. You should better invest it somewhere else. Okay. So now what exactly is growth? Okay, so if we look at the economics of growth, it's very interesting, and entire we can talk for hours about your economic growth, what growth is, how these growth is measured, etc. So that's for some other day, and it gets typical. I'll give you an example, and I'll see how many of my friends who have got 96 and 98 will answer that question. Okay, so but what exactly is growth, or your gross domestic product? Every day morning in your newspaper you are talking about, every time an opposition has some problem with finance minister, or finance minister talking, or RBI governor talking, or any Arundhati Bhattacharya talking, or any leading economics paper, first thing that you read about GDP. Okay, that's so we have to understand what exactly is GDP. So it's the rupee term, or for US is the dollar term of all the final goods produced in a country in an accounting year. Okay, please remember this. Please remember this. This is what I think was asked to one of the guys who thoroughly prepared for an interview and did not even bother to check what GDP was. Please, you should not make that mistake. Is the final output. Okay, so it's the price tag that you can associate to the final output, not the intermediate, not to a chip which will ultimately go into a computer tomorrow. No, not that. Or computer which is ready, and both which is already there in the market sold, and also which is there lying in the inventory, both will be accounted for. Okay, so that's the GDP. Calculating it's a huge, I think there is entire chapter devoted. If you guys are interested, really we will do another session on accounting national income. That will be like only numericals. I do not like to give ग्रॉस का नेट कैसे हो जाता है, डिप्रिसिएशन माइनस कर दो, फैक्टर कॉस्ट का मार्केट कॉस्ट कैसे हो जाता है, उसमें ट्रांसपोर्टेशन कॉस्ट जोड़ दो, एंड ऑल दैट. Anyone, you can just see a graph. If you really want a session, it'll be hardcore numerical based. That's where the real understanding comes from. Okay, वो ग्राफ और वो चार्ट देख करके कुछ नहीं समझ में आता. I'll tell you why. Okay, so gross value added now is the gross domestic product. Basically that is what we have seen now, that is what we calculate. Okay, and then if you see GDP is giving a skewed picture. मान लीजिए country जिसका 1 लाख population है, okay, or say 1 million is the population, they have a GDP of a million. Okay, and then there is a country which is having a population of a billion like India, and they have a population of only $1 million. Then it's skewed, right? So we are talking about this country has higher GDP. That will not give you any picture. GDP per capita, actually how many people are engaged and are producing that much, that will give me the real picture, right? So GDP per capita is the true picture. You can of course counter me by asking GDP per capita is not GDP per capita, or the labor force should be actual, kids will not be, so a demography dividend for a country which is skewed towards still having younger population, not in workforce. So all that discussion we can have, and these are the kind of discussion which can happen in your interview. Okay, so that is what I want you to think. Okay, so why GDP is not a great figure, why GDP per capita, and then you can also question GDP per capita to GDP per labor force participation. Okay, and then we talk about GDP, we should not talk about GDP, we should talk about the GDP, real GDP, and what exactly is the real GDP, that is what we'll invest some time in. Okay, so let me just move out here and let me just tell you something about real GDP. Okay, what exactly is real GDP? Okay, so in a country, say like, let's say example India, 2016, in the accounting year 2016, they produce goods worth say 1 billion. Okay, 1 billion INR. Okay, and they produced say 1 billion articles. Okay, in 2017 the goods produced is now 2 billion. So can you calculate the real GDP growth from this, whatever data I have given you? Oh, sorry, I think yes, I have moved out. I am really sorry. I have moved out, guys. I have moved out. Sorry. just chilling. I'm just reading your comments here. I think you are idiot of a first order. You do not have basic say तमीज़ नहीं है आप में. You should be kicked out. I'm just worried why you are still not kicked out of this session. I think he should be kicked out. What kind of a show off? These are the kind of idiots, who know nothing, but will just come and participate just to show off. Okay, so what sorry, first of all, I'm really sorry, irrespective of what he was saying, but yeah, I was covering the screen, I did not realize that. Okay, so in 2016, we have, all the gross domestic product of the country was $1 billion, okay, and we had produced 1 billion articles basically, so roughly 1 rupee per article was the, the output. Now in 2017, we have 2 billion rupee worth of GDP, okay, that's the dollar value or the rupee value that we have to associate to the final output. Can you calculate the real GDP if I give you this figure? Exactly, guys, the guys like just chilling, etc. They are the reason why we stopped doing free session, and it kind of vindicates our stand that we should really not do anything for free for you guys. These are the kind of students who kind of enforces our belief in having closed sessions. Exactly. So basically, your real GDP you will not be. You will be able to calculate the nominal GDP. There is kind of 100% increase. But what if the entire 100% increase came out of 100% rise in the prices? So this 1 rupee article, all these articles became 2 rupee article, and you did not. There was no real output change, but only price change. So that is what is taken care when we talk about real GDP. So we account for inflation. Okay, so your there is a your nominal GDP by real GDP. This is basically your GDP deflator. By the name itself, so nominal GDP here was 200 billion or 2 billion, and your original was this. So GDP deflator is 2. So basically, whatever value that you got, just divided by the GDP deflator, you get your real GDP. Okay, so that's how it is, and how the real GDP basically is calculated by taking into account the inflation. Yes, you do not know the real say inflation figure, so you cannot know the real GDP. Okay, so I've just given you the figures and the various formulas, etc., which is needed for simply GDP deflator. Again, I will write it down for you, is the nominal divided by real GDP. Okay, so nominal here in our example was 2 divided by 1, so your GDP deflator was 2. So what you do generally, whatever your figure is, this was an extreme example, but if you get a GDP deflator as 1.1, so what you will do, whatever is your increase, say suppose you increase it to 1331, okay, so divided by 1.1, what you will get, 121. So basically only 20% rise, whereas you will getting 133, whereas the inflation was 10%. Is GDP a satisfactory growth of, honestly, we can keep debating, we can follow Bhutan's, gross domestic happiness, etc. But yes, we know why we are talking about GDP, right? Because GDP is just one of the factors. What does it indicate? GDP indicates that your people are working. People are working. You know, your government is efficient. Okay. And what else? Your private sector is thriving. So if you will see this GDP, when it is growing in an open economy, it is an indicator of various other things. So we can talk like even if we have 100% GDP growth, but what if all my citizens are unhappy? So all that discussions are for some other day. In economics, we will say, yeah, that's good enough measure. Yes, service sector will also be there, no? All the sectors will be there. The final, that's the value added, no? Service sector also adds value. So now it is very easy for you, wherever you have this GST and wherever this, how you, in fact you had VAT, right? What was VAT? VAT was value added tax. So all this your, your vendors who were buying from a company and they were, say Nike was giving it to this third party vendors and they were kind of adding because of the transportation cost and your some value addition that they do, and they were able to sell 100 to 120. They were also paying tax, no, on this 20, the value which was added. So this 20 will also be included in your GDP count. Every stage till final consumption, whatever value is added, that's counted in our GDP. Okay, someone asked GDP GVA deflator is due to WPI too. There is a difference. Okay, someone has asked, so I'll just mention it. There are three basically, and your GDP deflator. Okay, so your consumer price index is one, which is now currently given the most weight in our country. We always talk about consumer, the inflation that we talk about, the RBI talks about, they are talking about the consumer price index. Okay, what is consumer price index? It's also very simple. They take a basket of product. What is basket of product? Today I will choose certain things which I feel is essential for a normal living. Okay, and I will calculate their prices. So toothbrush, toothpaste, oil, atta, ghee, chawal, all that I have put here, and this basket I have taken the price in 2010. Now in 2017 I will check the price for all these commodities, whatever that changes. So if this cost me say 100 rupees in 2010 and it cost me 135, that means there is 35% basically or say 135% this, or which is 35% increase in the CPI. So you will have always a base year. When you can always compare it to anything. You can compare it to a base year, year on year inflation you can talk about, quarter on quarter inflation you can talk about. It's just about whatever you keep on your base. Okay, so it's the basket of commodities whose price which is thought by the people in authority, which is essential to be bought. WPI, which was initially used, it all only talked about prices at retail level. Okay, retail level and distributor level. Okay, so this was initially used. Now we are shifting to CPI. And how is GDP deflator different from these? Is very simple, that this takes care of not just one or two things in basket, or say 300 or 447 articles in basket. It takes care of full economy. Okay, I hope this difference you can always remember now. WPI retail distributor level, CPI essential commodity basket, GDP deflator for the entire GDP as a whole. Okay. Okay, Sumit, you are asking me all technical question, resale value. If you have not added any value, no, second hand goods are not added there. That is why I say this is hardcore accounting of national income that demands altogether a different session. Okay, so I hope this part is clear. Now, in this you have to always remember that GDP is only calculating what are the things which are there, what are the things which are not there. Okay, So I think, sorry, they were asking, so I'll just let you know. What are the things which is included? All final goods, okay? Not the resale ones, okay? These will not be there, okay? Then all those things which you do for yourself will not be of any worth. So, or you know, a mother taking care of child, or you know, a mother cooking food for you, they are not counted in GDP, okay? This is, no, they are not marketable. All illegal transactions, okay? They will not be there, okay? So, and all things which are adding value in that financial year. So there is an interesting question I thought I'll ask you. Pension benefits and old age pension, or say pension, old age pension benefit, I will write it at, and the pension that a retired official gets, retirement pension. I hope you understand these two are different things, right? Okay, let me write it neatly before someone comments. Pension, one, retirement, other old age benefit. Okay, I hope you understand these are different. So you have worked, after your retirement you were given pension. Now you are so old that you can't take care of you, so Vridhavastha pension and ye sab pension, 500 rupees mahina and all that, Sarkar comes out with all those schemes, right? Purchasing power parity is a different concept. We have not gone to it. First, let us try to understand this. Yeah, purchasing power. I thought you were asking about, you were onto a different tangent of happiness, etc. Yes, purchasing power parity gives us a good idea. Okay. So now, which will be included? Will both be included? Will both not be included? Only one will be included. Which one will be included and why? Yes, Siddharth, that's correct answer. Okay, so what is that pension that you get on retirement? Nothing but basically deferred payment for all the things that you have already done. You have already added those values, so it was already accounted for. When you were paid those salary, you are not paid in full. They said a part of it will be paid during your old age, for which you have already, given your work already. Okay, so that part is already added in economy, but was not counted. So this will be added, whereas this old age benefit is subsidy, okay, and hence this will not be counted. Okay, so that is why I said this is a complex chapter wherein there are at least 20-30 such things where we have to know. There is no other way about it. It will not come intuitively to you. You will need to know what has to be included in in such scheme and what is not. Okay. Yes. Okay. So after having understood this, I told you national accounting is altogether a different, another couple of hours of session. Let's see if things go well, we might think of doing it. But sessions like this really do not encourage me enough to do it. Okay. Now we move to an important concept called business cycle. Okay, so what exactly is business cycle? Now we have seen our GDP, we have understood the real GDP part of it. So this is how my business cycle looks like. Okay, so a country basically will have a business cycle like this. Okay, I think I have it in the next page. Yeah, I have it. Okay, good. So so you look at this. What I'm plotting this with respect to time. Sorry. With respect to time, what I am plotting here is your real GDP. Okay, so this is your real GDP. Please mind it, this is not the nominal GDP.
So what happens is it kind of expands. Now the factor of production, everything, there is sentiment is good, investment is going on good, and this is called the expansionary phase in an economy. Now suddenly, XYZ reason, nobody knows why, but people think that because of the over enthusiasm, etc., a lot of good is produced. Now suddenly, the sales is not as that much, so that sluggishness hits the economy, and then you get into the phase of recession, or which is also called the contraction of the economy. This part is the contraction, okay, and then it will always kind of again recover, it will again go in peak and boom. So this is part of a business cycle wherein the trend line is growth. So the real economy basically is growing, but if you look at closely, it is going through various cycles of boom and bust, okay. So there is an expansionary phase which is followed by contraction. So there is a peak which is boom, there is trough which is bust. So this is basically the bust phase is here when the contraction starts. This is the boom phase when everything is hunky-dory. This is the peak, okay. And then this part here, when it has already hit the bottom, this phase is called the recovery phase, okay. So these are various terms in the economy that you would have read about. This is just showing it pictorially, nothing else, okay. Why do you say subsidy? It's by definition subsidy, therefore I am calling it a subsidy. Old age benefits are subsidy. The pension that you get is not. Anything that you get without working for it, it's subsidy, it's free lunch, and hence not counted in the national accounting, okay. So this part is clear. So various business economy which is growing, but still inside the that a long-term secular trend of growth, there can be various contractions and expansions, okay. Now the same thing that we have seen, I am showing you on the graph now, okay. Just try to understand. If you do not understand also, there is no problem. First let's try to look at this graph, okay. So what is this? This is long-term average supply, and this is short-term average supply. So this is another concept I did not cover in when we were covering the supply curves. Supply curves basically are of two kinds, okay. So one is the short-run supply curve, and one is the long-term supply curve. What this says is, in long term, you will ultimately be all the people who needs to be employed, all the investment that need to be done will all be done, okay. So irrespective of price, the supply will not change, okay. That is one of the views. In the short run, if you suddenly see a factor, just imagine the cow example or the pizza example I gave you. You already have, for year 2017, you have already employed all the people who are interested in making pizza. You have already employed the best technology available today. So you cannot, even if I start paying you 200 rupees for a pizza, will you be able to give more at that price? No. Whereas in short run, where all your productive resources are not employed, you will be able to add more. That is the difference. That's it. Now let us assume at this point, this is the full employment, long run average, your average demand, average supply, everything is same. Now, and recession is hits the economy. So what will happen in recession? The AD will go down, no? That is the graph here. So from here, this price level in the recession, basically what has happened? The prices have gone down, okay. So what happens when the prices go down? Okay, so if the prices go down, this curve, and wages not sticky, this is very important. And if your wages are not sticky, if your people now start working on smaller price also, on less price also, this will increase here, okay. And slowly this aggregate demand will also increase. So your supply will also increase and your demand will also increase, and your new equilibrium price will again come here, okay. If you are not understanding, there is nothing to worry about. Just please try to understand. I am just kind of pictorially explaining this same thing. Expansion, the prices of the things start to heat up, okay. Because of this, there is expansionary or this pressure, inflationary pressure. Suddenly you will have this, after it peaks, you will have this recessionary pressure. Prices will start falling, demand will keep falling. Now, since it is getting adjusted, it will again increase. So that is what is getting tried. No, you did not pay anything. Please, engineer man, you are getting confused here. The benefit you are getting, the pension benefit you are getting because you worked in past is not a benefit transfer. If you are not doing anything just because you are old, you never worked in your life, you never moved out of your house, but just because you are 65-year-old, government thinks your children have kicked you out of your house because you were a lazy guy, government is giving you 500. That is subsidy. Okay, now again the second one, this was the inflationary phase wherein the demand increased. Okay, so the prices level have gone up. Now if the prices level go up, naturally what will happen? Slowly again your demand will contract, and that economy will again get into that contractionary phase. Okay, and now this is the bad part. An economy should not enter this phase. This is called stagnation and inflation. What happens here? The economy does not move forward, the output decreases and your supply decreases, or in fact because of the supply decrease, your the economy has contracted. For problem like this, there is really no alternative. You do not have much choice. How will you fix this kind of problem? So this is stagflation. When an economy gets into stagnation as well as inflation, that is a serious worry. Okay. Okay, let's move to the next one. So we have covered growth. Okay, so let me just do a quick recap. We talked about growth. Okay, we talked about real growth. Okay, we talked about GDP. We talked about GDP, real GDP. We talked about WPI, CPI, and GDP deflator. Okay, and then we talked about your business cycle, the boom and bust, recession, and contraction, etc. Okay. This is the growth aspect. When I told you there are three things that you have to remember as an economist is growth, unemployment, and inflation. So now we are moving to the next part, which is unemployment. Okay. Do not bother about it if you do not understand the last part. It's just graphical, yaar. If you understand a little maths, just have patience. I can make you understand. But it seems like you have kind of given up on maths totally. I'll not be able to help you then. Honey Gupta, mail was sent to that effect. Nothing tough to understand. Please try to understand. It's just maths. It's just coordinate. There are, this is, at a point X, this is, the supply, this is at this. Now what happens if it shift? Suddenly, this will become the new price level. Just try to draw a couple. I do not understand, analyzing graph is such a big problem for you guys. I would have thought of doing it differently then. लास्ट ऊपर से निकल गया, उसको चलो छोड़ दो. अभी अगर आप लोग ग्राफ के मूड में नहीं हो तो चलो मैं उसमें नहीं जाता हूँ. बट अगर सच में पेशेंस हो कभी, आई विल ट्राई टू एक्सप्लेन. लीव दिस फॉर नाउ. लेट्स गो. ओके, ये वाला साइकिल समझ में आ गया. दिस वाज नथिंग बट दिस. ओके, इफ यू गॉट दिस then you got all those graphs. Okay, nobody knows what will be asked in your GDPI, but it's always good to know यार. मतलब लाइफ में थोड़ा सीखने में क्या प्रॉब्लम, आई डू नॉट अंडरस्टैंड. एंड यू आर द बैंकर्स ऑफ टुमारो यार. आप लोग अगर इकोनॉमिक्स नहीं समझोगे तो फिर कैसे चलेगा काम. Okay, so now we move to the next one. What is unemployment? So unemployment, first of all, is, it's defined differently. The workers who are capable of working and willing to work, who are not getting the employment. Okay, they are called unemployed. So now let's assume I have an MBA and I am, I can work. It's given that if you have that, you will be able to work. But I'm not looking for a job. I'm happy YouTubing, in spite of some morons which I come across, like just chilling, and I don't, and these guys, just look at it, they don't even have guts to put their real name. These guys are like shame. Okay. Okay, I'm unnecessarily getting worked up. So, but I choose to do only YouTubing, then I'll not be called unemployed. Even if I'm earning 0 rupees and I'm totally dependent upon my wife to earn and run my house, I will still not be called unemployed. Why? Because though I am capable, but I'm not looking for a job, and hence I will not come in unemployed. Please remember this, okay? So unemployed are those who are able to work and willing to work and looking for employment, okay? So that's the definition. And what is labor force? Again, labor force has different definition in different countries. Just check for India, above 15 years, I think before 15 years you are anyways child labor. So you should be at least 15 or 16 years of age and willing to participate in the labor force. So out of that, when you are talking about unemployment, so all these willing workers, out of total willing workers who are not getting the work. So if there are, my population of India is 1.25 billion, out of which the labor force is only 600 million, out of which only say 100 million or only 10 million are not getting the job. So this 10 by 600 is basically my unemployment. Okay, it has got nothing to do with entire population. It has nothing to do with people who are not looking for job. Please remember, it has got to do with only labor force. So all those below 15 and I think above 65 are all automatically excluded. Okay. Yes, Abhay, you will quickly get to just put 5-6 numbers. Try to do couple of questions. Best way to learn economics is to solve questions. Okay, just type this whatever topic that you are saying, numericals on this topic. Just Google it, you get it. Try to solve couple of them and you will get it. Okay, yes has asked a question which is there on my next slide. Okay, the problem with this definition is discouraged workers. So now what happened was, I was like, I passed out, I did my MBA, and after that 3 years I kept trying getting a job. I did not get it, and today I just gave it up. I told my wife, now you have to earn it. I will be happy doing YouTubing only and I will not be earning. So I'm a discouraged worker. I was actually at a point in time looking for work, and I might in fact be, today I'm not looking for it because I know I'll not get it. So all these discouraged worker will not figure in the unemployment figures, which is a bad thing. Okay, and all the part-time workers, even if they are getting मनरेगा का गड्ढा खोदने वाले 100 दिन also, they are also called employed. Okay, and that is how government is kind of manipulating the figures to bring down their unemployment. It was, I thought this will be good for everyone, for all the students. Economic concept, I was getting requests from various quarters, from our SSC closed group also, from SBI, in the SBI group also. So we thought we will do a session, we will do an open session. Okay guys, now, so I hope you have understood who are called unemployed. Okay, and the labor force definition you have understood, the problem with this measurement, etc. And now we are going to something very interesting, types of unemployment. So you see, there is already a lot of things there, and this makes it interesting, and this can be asked. Okay, this is something which I think all the interviewers will know, how many kinds of unemployment is there. Okay, so unemployment, basically there are 3. Okay, seasonal is special for India, only the Indian authors try to put it. Otherwise we talk about frictional, structural, and cyclical is what they say, not cyclical, they say cyclical unemployment. So what exactly is frictional unemployment? Frictional employment is, आज अभी आप मान लो SBI की जॉब का नोटिफिकेशन आया था, okay, and you guys were already working with Wipro or TCS or some IT companies, and you thought I can just work for 2 months and I can get into this job.
So you left a job, you are in between jobs. You are between jobs is another idiom you should know for your normal English also. So you are between job, that means you are out of the workforce currently. So not out of workforce, you are out of work currently. You are looking for job. So you are resigned or you were fired and you are looking for a job. That's the frictional. Okay, that's called frictional unemployment. That is bound to happen. Government ना उल्टा खड़े हो जाए अपने सर पे भी ना फ्रिक्शनल एम्प्लॉयमेंट को नहीं निकाल पाएगी. ठीक है, डेली कुछ लोग फायर होंगे, डेली कुछ लोग को मतलब कुछ सोच करके घर में मम्मी बीमार हो गई, पापा बीमार हो गए, गांव से कॉल आ गया, कुछ हो गया, they will leave their job and things will happen. So types of unemployment will be frictional. Second one is structural. अब हुआ क्या कि पिज्जा मेकिंग में आज मेरे को 50 लोग लगते थे, there are 50 guys. Tomorrow there is a machine comes which can by and these 150 guys were producing 100 pizza. Tomorrow with the help of technology, with the same cost, I can employ only 20 guys and I can produce 200 pizzas. Will I need these 30 guys? Only on humanitarian ground, but businesses don't run on humanitarian grounds, right? So I'll have to fire them. So all those who are getting unemployed because of advancement in technology, because the structure per se has changed and they do not need my services, I will call it structural unemployment. Okay, so these two employment you cannot do much about it. Yes, government can form a policy. The robot tax which Bill Gates has also talked about will be the thing in future, but for now these two employment put together is called a natural rate of unemployment, something which we really do not have control over. The problem is the cyclical unemployment, which happens because of your this boom and bust cycle. Okay, so when your recessionary phase, you are kicking out people. Okay, so this is what you have to control. This recession and inflation is something that you have to control. That is why RBI talks about this. They talk about eliminating this cyclical unemployment. Cyclical unemployment is a bad thing. That should not happen to an economy which is doing good and having good measures to check inflation and recession. Okay, and the seasonal is nothing but कि भैया मैं तो हूँ कामचोर, I will not work beyond certain hours. So अगर एक बार मैंने चावल की खेती कर ली, I will not do anything. अब अगले सीजन में देखेंगे, तब तक बैठ करके ताश खेलते हैं. ठीक है, that's seasonal unemployment. I do not have anything to work. But these guys, if they are hardworking, they will move to other places. They will work as part-time labor at some places, etc. Not necessarily, you will not find it everywhere, but these three you will find. These two are together called as natural unemployment rate. So zero unemployment is not something that you aspire for. This will always be there. You are aspiring for or you strive for natural rate of unemployment to be less and less. Okay. Okay, you will always have natural unemployment rate. Okay, I hope that part is clear. Okay, now we move to the third most important part, which is inflation. What exactly is inflation? We already saw in GDP deflator. The price of the commodity goes up. That means if I had 100 rupees today and inflation goes up by 100%, I will not be able to buy anything, right? So आज 100 रुपए की चीज़ अगर वो 10% अगर आगे हो जाए अगर अगले साल, so basically the power of buying the good today has decreased tomorrow, right? That's inflation. It eats into the power of money. That is inflation for us. It loses its purchasing power. Okay. Then you have deflation. It's the opposite of inflation. What happens is the prices of things go, when it is a recessionary economy, generally people will be happy to sell it at even lesser price. So now suddenly your prices have gone down. Your power to purchase with the same 100 rupees, now the thing costs 90 rupees has increased. You will be able to buy more of that quantity. This inflation is, inflation but at a decreasing rate. So inflation is there in the economy, but it is growing at a, if this is the inflation chart, this is the part where disinflation is happening. This is, the peak is at 6%, this is 5%, this is 4%, there is still inflation in the economy, but it is increasing at a decreasing rate. That's disinflation. Quite, obvious as the term, as they are called, so is their meaning. Okay. I hope this is clear. So we have seen about growth, we have seen about unemployment, we have seen about inflation. The broad macro parameters we have looked into. Okay. Let us now move forward. Okay. 3 price indices. I think someone asked before that I was supposed to take it now, but these are the 3 GDP deflator we talked about. It is broader index than CPI. Why? Because CPI takes into only basket of
products purchased typically, which is necessary. Okay, again I have to move forward, sorry. Three price index actually are the GDP deflator, the CPI and the WPI. I have already discussed it, do not worry about it. Okay. Disguised unemployment is not really a form of employment per se. ये तो कामचोर लोग जो बैठे रहते हैं. Moved out, guys, moved out. Relax, there is a lag. Please bear with me. Okay, so these were three measures, key indices which is used. Now, this was, you remember the monetarist economist, the school of thought where the monetary school of thought, the monetarist, they talked about MB is equal to PY, right? So what they said was, now we can now understand it more easily. So this is the money supply, this is the money velocity. What is the money velocity? If you have seen my banking lectures, which I think you should see, that like roughly 6 to 8 hours I have just talked about banking system, which is the next unit, which I will kind of skip here and will ask you guys to no, currently our inflation is done on CPI. Okay, before it was done on WPI, but RBI now calculates it using CPI. Okay, so this is your money supply, this is your money velocity, how many time it exchanges hand is equal to PV or PY, sorry. This is the economy, the good produce and their prices. So if this economy does not change, and assuming this velocity is constant, so basically I am taking two terms as constant. If I increase the money supply, what will change? Only prices. That were the concerns of the monetarist economists, and this is one of the cause of inflation. If your government keeps printing money, if it keeps increasing the money supply, prices will rise, and that is one of the reason for inflation. The other two reasons are very simple. You remember this? Okay, just try to understand this, at least you will be able to understand. Okay, this is my demand, this is my supply, right? This was clear. Now, demand pull is something like this. Is it so difficult to understand? Can you make out, because of the increased demand, now the price has increased? Is it difficult to see this? Okay, so just give me this, your attention for next 2 minutes, and you will be able to understand this. And this second way is cost push. Okay, so this was demand supply. Now suddenly what has happened is your supply basically has gone down. Okay, so this was demand and this is supply. Is it so difficult to understand that the prices will increase in both the cases? P initial, P final, P initial, P final. Just see, I just increase the demand, price increase. I decrease the supply, price increase. No money, I do not think that is the reason that the velocity increased. We are still talking about the the cash economy or per se how quickly it is changing hand. Can you see this graph and understand it? Don't tell me ये भी ऊपर से जा रहा है. There were many reasons, Vineet, why it did not change suddenly. There were a lot of panels which recommended the change from WPI to CPI, because CPI is the correct measure of what a consumer is really facing. Okay, the problem faced by the consumer had to be looked into account. Also, collecting data for initially was not very easy. So when it became easier, they have switched to it. These were the reason. You can just read on
RBI website why they changed. Cost push is simple, the supply decreased. It's always same, the decrease left hand side, increase right hand side. So this one will be left and right, this will be right and this will be left, right? So demand increase is right times, so this is the new graph. Supply decrease will be left, so this is the new graph. Okay, so cost push or demand pull, this is it too. Your cost price increase of the commodity, supply decreases, the prices have increased. Your demand increase, the same supply basically, now you will be able to do it at higher prices. Okay guys, I hope this part is clear. Can we move forward? So these are three major reasons if they ask you. So one could be printing money indiscriminately, demand pull and cost push. These three are the reasons. Now aggregate demand. Now we have talked about one demand, talked about one person in general. Now if I talk about the entire economy, then what I do is I talk about price level. Only my axis things changes, and this is the quantity demanded. Price level, quantity demanded, and this aggregate demand, basically wherever you will have, this will become your GDP, wherever this kind of intersect, aggregate demand and supply. Aggregate supply, this is short term, this is long term, short term, long term. Okay. Yes, exactly, Prem. I think you have perfectly got it. Okay, now, so this is aggregate demand. What I have done, I have summed up all the demands of the economy. So all those individual PQ, I have summed it up for the entire economy, and this is what I will get. This will give me the aggregate demand. And what exactly is your aggregate demand? Is your GDP, right? When we are talking about the consumption method. Okay. So we'll talk more about it. I just wanted to give you an overview before starting. Okay. Now, this is three theories why it is downward sloping. You can just remember, even if you forget, there is not a problem. First is wealth effect. So what it says, if my wealth goes down, I will be, if my wealth, the value of my wealth decreases, so I will be able to buy less and less. It's simple. Price level, at higher prices, my wealth basically is of less value. Okay, so I am able to demand less and less. Okay, quite commonsensical. What the value of money that you have in your pocket. Interest rate, again, if the interest rate is higher, that means cost of returning the money is higher, you will be able to buy less and less. Okay, finally foreign trade, if your goods are higher, people from foreign countries will be less and less interested in your product. Okay, these three is what economists feel, that these three are the effect. Again, all these are assumptions. We can keep debating. This is something which I read somewhere, so I thought I'll just share why an aggregate demand curve is downward sloping. It's for wealth effect, interest and foreign trade effect. Okay. Yeah, yes, money in that is what you have just written is true for individual PQ. As an economy, you have these three factors coming into play. That's it. Which ultimately are the same things. Please try to. If my wealth is less, is what? Since the prices have gone up, my wealth value is less. Okay. Now, when will these shift? So the Cygnus, the equation you remember in the Keynesian theory, we read about this. CIGNX, this was consumption, investment, this is, you have to remember this is very important. This is government expenditure, both consumption and this is export minus import. Okay. So your aggregate demand curve, if it is this, if any of this changes, if the consumption increases suddenly, this will shift. If investment increases, this will shift. If government increases the spending, this will shift. If your export increases, this will shift. Just the opposite.
Consumption decreases, this will shift downward. Investment decreases, government expenditure decreases, export decreases or import increases, this will shift downwards. Okay, so this is aggregate demand. Outward shift and inward shift will happen because of these. Okay, understanding it? Okay, I told you to have some patience. I'll explain how many times you want it to be explained. I will try to explain it. And this is important, guys. No matter if you are in job market, you have to understand it. Yeah, I seriously, I will really mock at guys who come to an interview do not have common understanding of economic terms for a bank interview especially. Okay, please try to understand these things. Okay, supply curve, okay, I have already explained it, but I told you about. So aggregate demand you have seen, aggregate supply. So supply curve, basically economists have different views. So one is short term, short range aggregate supply, and the other is long term aggregate supply. Okay, long range, long term, LRAS or SRAS. Okay, I just discussed about it and I gave you an example also. Why you have this vertical, they can ask, does supply curve really change in long run? Okay, long run supply curve, do they change? Absolutely no. Why? Because all the technological advancement, okay, all your resources that could be hired, there will be nothing, here, some of them will be out of job because of frictional or the structural, but here everyone is already counted in long run. Just imagine, even, economists do not agree on what they call long term. Is it 1 year? Some of them say 1 year, some of them say 3 quarters, and there are few economists who they say there are 10 to 30 year when we talk about long term phenomena. Okay, you do not have to get into that discussion, but please try to understand, if all the factors are taken into account, both the human factor, human labor, and the technological factor, you cannot change supply immediately in the long run. How you can change? Very long term your supply will change, that means you have invested in the technology. And again, this is the same curve as the first curve which we started with, the PPP, production possibility curve. So your long range supply curve or this, you are seeing this PPP are same. And how can you move this? How can an economy grow? Either by trade or by investing in your human capital, by making your existing capital, human capital, to do more work, or investing in new capital. Okay? Yes, the schools of economics. Now understanding the part of it. So now we have discussed two. So we have discussed the aggregate demand, okay, which is the price level here, and the quantity demanded. Okay, and the aggregate demand is nothing but your GDP. What will be your GDP? Will depend upon the aggregate supply at that price level. What is the supply in the market? There are two supplies. One is the short term and one is the long term. Okay, short term, long term, you have seen this kind of assumes full employment. This is like you're working at your PPP on this frontier. If you want to increase it, if you want to expand, you have to invest in your technology, both human and your capital. I hope this part is clear. Now we kind of, summing it all together. Okay, so the aggregate demand supply curve and your production possibility curves, I hope you are able to see them together. Okay guys, now why will it shift? There are basically three reasons. Like we had Signex there. For shift in supply curve, you have three. Short term, your resources, your number of all those guys who were unemployed, basically who were in the frictional, and your what was the second one? The frictional unemployment. Your cyclical is something which is bad. If you give enough time, even these guys will come. Okay, so these guys are now part of all those who had lost job also you are taking into, and they are better trained. Okay, so these resources increase in their number, increase in their quality. So either you increase the resources number or you increase their quality. Government action, we just discussed, the supply can significantly increase if the government is giving them subsidy. okay, or reducing their tax. So giving subsidy or reducing tax can increase the supply, okay, or you work on the technology. This is what we talked about, right? Outward shift of the production possibility curve by training your human capital and your technology. Okay guys, this part is clear. Now we have, I think, already mentioned it many times. Now let's see how this growth takes place. So this is your aggregate demand. I'll try to show it using graph. I hope you will understand. This is your, aggregate supply long term also, okay. Now this is your quantity Q, your GDP basically. Now because of, factors of, say we invested in technology and you, kind of put lot of things there, what happened here was your aggregate supply increased, right? So you will think that basically the prices should ideally fall. But since you have invested in capital and you are training more and more people are getting employed, etc., this leads to a second shift, okay, wherein your aggregate demand also increases, okay. So your new equilibrium is not at this point which you will normally think, but at this point wherein because of this investment in technology, because of training more and more people, they getting employed, they are kind of shifting the aggregate demand as well. So you see a double shift. First a shift in the supply because of all the things that you have invested into, and then a supply, a demand, increase in demand because these guys who you trained, they became more, able earners, they started demanding more, and hence you see even you have shifted your long term average. So this is basically a, triple shift, 3 shifts, okay. This is what is happening when we were talking about this technological and training your, people. Does this all look tied up to you now? Aggregate supply long term, nothing. It is very simple. Long term, it says, wherever it is just constant. Wherever your GDP is, no, that is what is your long term supply. That is what it says, nothing more than that, okay. In short term it can increase because of new labor force participation, changes in government policies, etc., and we see how it can change long term. If you have to shift this long term, you have to invest in technology, on your human resources, you have to get benefit from government. All these things will help you increase this from here to here, and how that was supply change, demand change, and then your long term change. Draw it yourself, you will understand it. Understanding, guys? I hope you are getting what I am trying to explain. Suman says okay, Prem says okay. Okay, this looks very simple. When you will see me doing, it will look very simple. Try to do it yourself, it will be more fun. Just see, this is aggregate demand, this is aggregate supply. I invested in technology, supply increases. But these guys in turn, whom I have invested on, are now even earning more. So this is my new equilibrium, right? So this is my new aggregate demand final, this is my aggregate supply final. This becomes my new supply. So what has happened, my QD, the equilibrium QD, which was nothing but my GDP, has increased at the same price level. Just see, if this was my price level, I did not cause any inflation and I have increased my GDP. This is the real growth. This is how the growth takes place, okay? Okay, I'm not getting into nitty-gritties. What when you have inelastic supplies, what if government intervention is there, and all those nitty-gritties. This is basic understanding. This is hygiene understanding. You have to understand it. Okay? इतना आपको समझना ही है कि इकोनॉमी कैसे काम करता है. ओके, सो अब आपको समझ में आ गया. सबसे पहले पूरे को एक बार छोटा सा मतलब एक रिकैप लेकर के देखते हैं. सबसे पहले व्हाट आर द थिंग्स दैट वी हैव सीन. वी talked about scarcity, right? This is how we opened our lecture. Because of scarcity, we have to do transaction, or you have to do trade-offs. The transactions will involve trade-offs, right? And these trade-offs are basically done on the basis of opportunity cost. This opportunity cost, basically I gave you an entire overview of giving you this production possibility curve was this. This opportunity cost gives you an example of what you can produce, and by leaving one out, how you can. We learnt about law of increasing possibility curve, how investment in technology etc. can increase your production possibility curve, and how trade can increase this. In trade we learnt about comparative advantage. The absolute advantage concept is mostly done with. In the comparative advantage, out of what country A and B produces, if who will produce whatever country has to forego lesser should choose that commodity to produce. I gave you a trick also, just multiply in cross whatever you are getting as the bigger number here. So this combination for A, this for B will be the answer. Try it with 100 examples, you will always get it right. Okay, so that was the economy trade. I told you about David Ricardo, he gave it in 1817. That is the entire trade. When we are talking about closed economy, then we talked about circular flow of economy, how your government is there, how your business is here, how we as a resource household is there. So we have a factor market, we have goods market. So we give ourselves here, businesses kind of take from the factor market and pay us. Government also take, all the SSC guys will be taken, government will be taking you. All these household will be paid either by the government or by the businesses, and they will again invest back in the goods market. Okay, and this good market, all this money that you have investment will go back to the businesses. This is what we have seen, the circular flow of it. Okay, so after learning the circular flow of the economy, we talked about aggregate supply and demand curve. We saw how it can shift, shifting of demand, aggregate demand, backward shift. Sorry, this is aggregate supply, forward shift and backward shift. If government taste preferences, we talked about consumer preferences. If more consumer come, anything other than the price, with price it was along the curve. Anything other than the price, things which can shift the curves, it moved, or it shifted the curve. So aggregate supply and aggregate demand curves we seen. These were initially the first ones were the simple ones, and then I kind of aggregated. This was price and quantity. It was not aggregate, it was just supply and demand. When I aggregated them, it became price levels and quantity total, which was nothing but the GDP. We saw how aggregate demand and supply, if it increases, also will, if we have invested in the technology, how it is same curve as the production possibility curve, mentioning it, how at the same price level we have increased our GDP, by employing more people, using better technology, etc. That's the real economic growth. Okay, I hope you have got the broad understanding of what economics is, how the economy is running, and a gist of it. Okay, please watch. If you have not understood it, please don't give up on any concept so easily. Okay, everything is easy. You just need, whatever your subject. If you are a history guy, just think about a science graduate. He also feels like giving up history, but is there anything to be worried about in history? कोई भी महीने भर लेकर के उसको पढ़ेगा, he will get grasp over it, right? साइंस में थोड़ा सोचना पड़ जाता है. इकोनॉमिक्स में you have to visualize things. That's it. Okay, now I think you remember this. We talked about Phillips curve in the rational theorists, the rational expectation theorists. They talked about Phillips curve. This is very interesting, and there is a lot of controversy surrounding it. But okay, we will try to understand both what is there in the, say, long term, what people feel, and how do we go about it. Okay, this is very simple. The concept is very simple. It says some amount of inflation is always good. Okay, what it says is some amount of inflation is very good. It drives down the unemployment. Okay, so higher inflation means lesser unemployment. That is what Phillips curve says, and please remember it only in short term. Okay, so in short term, people who are out of job, okay, or if you want some people to not fire somebody, what you will do? You will ensure that you will give them subsidy. So what will this end up in doing? It will have unnecessarily people still getting their wages, so this will drive up the inflation. These guys who should ideally be kicked out or moved out of
the work, they are still in the job, and therefore the inflation is increasing. If you move these guys out who are no longer required by the industry because they have to now skill up to get the job, if they are still in the industry, they will drive the prices high. Okay, so that is what, for politicians, just think from the point of politician, do they really think what economics needs? They need, during the election time, every single voter of his should be employed, he should be happy. So will he ensure, he will take for short term inflation over missing on employment opportunity, and that is what Phillips curve is. Just Google it, you will get umpteen resources over it, but it's as simple as that. In short term, higher inflation leads to lesser unemployment, or if you want to control employment, you'll have to bear with higher inflation. Okay, that's what is Phillips curve. But rational theory expectation said anything that the government does is already expected, so this expectation will anyways be taken care of, and you'll always have vertical Phillips curve, and it will not depend upon inflation. It is independent of inflation. So you should do instead work on the policy matter rather than working on such shortcuts. Okay, that's what Phillips curve talks about. Okay. Okay, now fiscal policy, tax and spending. Okay, this is interesting. This is something which is from where now what we have done, we have laid down the basics. We now know everything that we need to know, the terms we know. Okay, this is here where the macroeconomics starts, the policy. The real fun begins here. You will be able to make your graphs and you will be able to decide what government should do. Then it becomes interesting. Okay, when you can decide what Arun Jaitley should do by drawing logically in your notebook, then the real fun of macroeconomics start, and this is the part here. Okay, so what is fiscal policy and monetary policy? What are these two policies? Simple. Any policy that government does is fiscal policy, and they effectively do two things. They increase or decrease tax, or they increase or decrease spending. How government increase or decrease their spending? Either by buying things as consumption, or also by investing in infrastructure. So that's government spending. Tax we all know, and fiscal policy, all your transfer payments etc. are also part of fiscal policy. So that's a negative tax, right? So instead of taking from people, you are giving away to people. Okay, so fiscal policy consists of two things: you are taxing or spending, both ways. All right. Higher inflation is the result of unnecessarily employed guys. Take it like that. Okay, in the Phillips curve. Okay, spending multiplier, MPC, MPS, this is interesting. Okay, so what happens is, this is marginal propensity to consume, and this is called marginal propensity to save. Okay, this is nothing but, I'll just explain, and then we'll get to spending multiplier. So now if someone earns 80 rupees, if he earns 100, he spends 80. So what is his propensity to consume? 0.8. Okay, but this is not marginal. I am taking about the gross. Okay, every 100 rupee that I earn, I'll spend 80. That is my spending propensity. But marginal propensity talks about something else. Okay, so what it talks about, now if my income increases from 100 to 120, what does my increase in this one changes? So if this goes from 80 to 90, so what you do, change in income, which is 20, and change in actual consumption, which is 10 by 100. So your marginal propensity to consume is only 50%. Okay, so though your overall propensity to consume is 80, whereas when it increases, and in economics we'll always talk about marginal, we'll never talk about absolute. We always talk about the marginal propensities. So marginal propensity to consume is per increase. You have to look at this. If I increase by 1 unit my income, how much will I consume out of it? That's marginal propensity to consume. And marginal propensity to save will again be 50%. I have given a different example. Now let us just change this. Okay, now out of my 20 rupees increase, I kind of consume only 5. Okay, so how much of it will be saved, and how much of this will be marginal propensity to basically consume will be how much? 25%. You can clearly say
the 15 out of it I have saved. So 75% or 0.75 is my marginal propensity to save, and this one, marginal propensity to consume, basically is only 0.25. Okay. Okay, so this is the common term, marginal propensity to consume. Per increase in your income, how much will you consume? Marginal propensity to save, nothing but 1 minus, you can do it simple, because consumption plus saving is your income. That is the common understanding. C plus S is your income. So out of your income, if you consumed 80, 20 you saved. Okay. Now this is interesting. Now deficit spending, debt, crowding out, etc. These terms we have to understand. Okay, let me just move out of the picture here. Okay. So we saw in that circular flow also, what does government do? Government basically takes taxes and it gives subsidies, it government spending, etc. We saw this. Now if this taxed amount is less than what it is passing on in subsidies to just be in the government, or it is spending on the government spending like an infrastructure project, etc., how will government be able to do it? Its resources, government is also like us, it's also like resources, but it has some more power. It has different ways and means. Its credit card basically is the RBI, who will arrange for its deficit spending. So basically when the taxes are less than your expenses, you get into this deficit spending. Okay, so government is able to generate taxes of only 100 rupees, but it ends up giving subsidies plus government spending of 120. So basically it is doing deficit spending, and all the deficit accumulated over period of time is basically your national debt. Okay, so we have all those FRBM, right, financial responsibility bill, etc., are there, right, which says it should not exceed 3% of your GDP, and your GDP should the debt to GDP ratio also should not pass over a certain limit. So all these are the reason. So deficit spending is when government overdoes its spending, and it say gives out more than what it intakes. Okay, now this is crowding out and deficit spending. Now I told you that its credit card is RBI. So what does RBI does? It buys bond from it, and if it buys bond, it gives out money in the system, right? So money is given out to the government. Now if more and more money is given out, what will happen? See, again, demand for money and interest rate, same graph. Okay, I could not get into more details today. And this is supply, and supply for money basically is just constant like this. Now if I print more money, basically this is not linear. Government will not keep increasing on a daily basis what your demand is. So generally RBI has fixed money supply. At the time of demonetization also, there was certain 14.86 thousand crore, lakh crore money in the market, etc. So money supply basically is constant over a period of time, and this is the demand of the people, and this fixes the interest rate. Same demand supply concept everywhere. This is demand for money. It can be extended anywhere. So now this demand for money is having this interest rate. Now because of this government using RBI as its credit card, printing more money has increased the interest rate, has increased the money supply. So if money is more in the market, what will happen to the interest rate? You can easily get it. Definitely interest rate goes down. Now let's go back to our aggregate demand. See, everything is so beautifully related. If you try to understand it, it becomes fun. Now this investment was businesses putting money into their businesses. When they will invest?
when interest is high or when interest is low? Definitely the cost of capital has to be low. So this, because of government action of printing more money, interest rate has gone down, so this investment will go up. So your aggregate demand will basically shift rightwards. Okay, but the problem here is, because of the government already taking a bulk of this money, this your investment benefit, these guys are not able to take the maximum benefit of it, and hence there will be lesser resources available for the businesses. This is called this aggregate demand, though it should have shifted from here to here, but because government is taking a bulk of money because of this increase rate, therefore the actual growth which should have taken because of this decreased interest rate does not take place, a little lesser take place. This phenomena is called crowding out. Okay, so very simple, in 2 lines if I have to define what crowding out is: because of decreased interest rate, businesses invest, but that investments do not give the actual output, because government is also competing for that money, and hence it takes up certain portion and it just pushes back the interest rate upward, and therefore the businesses do not get the desired benefit because of this government intervention, and hence only a part of the growth take place. Yes, continuous deficits will form into debt. Okay, now I think this part is over, and from here what I am getting into is what I have already covered. I'll just briefly touch upon it very quickly. Okay, let me just move quickly forward to the money, which is the next, because I think we have already discussed it in great detail in my lecture in banking awareness. Please watch it. There are 4 lecture guys, really worked hard for those lectures. Please watch it before you go for your interviews. You will have basic understanding. You will be able to talk like a literate person to your interviewer, and you will talk with conviction. Okay, so money, basically 2 reasons: transactional and asset purchase. Barter basically was the initial how things were changed. Commodity money came, then fiat money, evolution of money, everything is covered in detail. All these things in a slide are covered like in 1.5 hours. Features of money, all those store of exchange, store of value, unit of account, all those M1, M2, M3 discussed in elaborate detail. Okay, money, fractional reserve system, how fractional reserve system generates more and more money. If there is 25% reserve, so how 100 will become 400, all those things I think I have already discussed. Okay, banks balance sheet, the reserves ratio, the rates, the bank rates, repo rate, reverse repo rate, overnight lending, or open market operation, everything is extensively covered there. Please take out 5-6 hours and watch those videos. Money, again the money multiplier effect, we have discussed about the money market. The supply curve is vertical. I think I just showed this to you. Again, let me just show it to you. We talked about the money market. This is the aggregate demand. If the money supply from the government because of printing of money or the issue of bonds, etc., it changes, the interest rate will decrease. But again, government started vying for it. It pushed up the interest rate, and hence the private sector got lesser at this interest rate. It started to increase, and hence the growth has taken place. Aggregate demand has gone up, but not to the level. It kind of reduces a bit, and therefore that phenomena was known as crowding out. Okay, time and again same concept, guys, just tying it together for you. Monetary policy, again expansionary, contractionary, I think again discussed in detail. What is expansionary monetary policy is trying to keep the low interest rate is the expansionary. Cost of fund, less reserve requirement, you decrease the repo rates, your rates, basically all rates will be kind of attached. So all these will be, come under monetary policy or your discount rate, open market operation. Just the reverse of this contractionary, I will increase the interest rate, like Rajan was, thought a hawkish policy. This is dovish, this is hawkish, which is contractionary. Everything is discussed in detail, guys. Everything here. Then we move to the final chapter, which is your international trade, current account, capital account, and balance of payment. So this is again, kind of summary. So your current account is nothing but balance on goods and services. All your export imports are your balance on goods. You add those services, it becomes balance on services. You add services and goods, it becomes balance on trade. Okay. Add to the net transfer payment which is done to your country, this will become your net transfer payment. Net dividend plus interest, everything that you are getting from outside also, this will be your balance on current account. Anything and everything that is happening because of the goods, services and your transfer payments. Capital account on the other hand is your foreign real estate, the purchase your real estate here, and if you are going and purchasing somewhere, so both in and out. Same thing here also, in and out. You have to always take the net. So what goes out, what comes in our country. Same goes for capital account. Okay, balance on capital account. Always remember that this your current account plus capital account plus your whatever this statistical error etc. will give you 0. So whatever goes out in a way will come in some way. That is the balance of payment. That is why it is called balance of payment also. So what is unbalanced in the current account gets balanced in terms of capital account. They will generally not get exactly managed. So this will be your official, of course there will be some depletion in official reserve etc. plus statistical errors, the counting error that would have taken place. Okay, so that's the international trade that we talked about. We saw the terms of trade, we understood which country has to produce what, and then when trade happens, it leads to balance of payment. Balance of payment crisis we talk about when you are only importing and not exporting. Again, now all these things will get tied up with your CIGNX formula also. Okay, so now this is very interesting. Now what happens when on your exchange rate and effect on exchange rate? So you have seen the CIGNX, and this led to our aggregate demand, right? I hope this had absolutely no confusion. Okay, and this was CIGNX. Now what if your export increases? What will happen? The curve will shift outwards, right? Okay, now see how beautifully they are tied. What happens if your exchange rate, okay, say appreciate, if your rupee appreciate, please try to understand these terms also. Rupee appreciate, what does rupee appreciation means? Okay, rupee appreciates or rupee depreciates. Okay, what does this mean? It's very simple. Rupee appreciate means to buy a dollar, I will need lesser number of rupee. So today if $1 is 70 rupees, if rupee appreciate, that means to buy the same $1, I should be paying only 65 rupees. This is rupee appreciation. Rupee appreciation means to buy the same commodity, you are kind of investing lesser of the same old quantity. So 65 rupees instead of 70 rupees, that's rupee appreciation. Now second is rupee depreciation. Depreciation means now you will have to pay rupees 75 to buy $1. Okay, now let's see how these things are tied to your aggregate demand. What happens when your rupee is depreciating? Let's first see. First of all those politicians or anyone who is worried about rupee depreciating, they should not be. Of course, there should not be blind depreciation. But the problem does not happen because of rupee depreciation. It happens because you are more dependent on import than export. Okay. Now just look at this. Yes. Now what I have said, rupee has appreciated. Okay. Sorry, I said depreciate, right? Okay, we'll take both. First discuss, let's see rupee depreciated. So if rupee depreciated, that means if I am a person in US, my $1 which was giving me 70 will give me more or less? Definitely more.
because rupee has depreciated. So I in US, sitting in US, will be able to buy more of Indian goods with the same $1. So what will this lead to? Increase in export or decrease in exports? Just think, if rupee depreciates, a person having same $1 will be able to buy more of the Indian goods, thereby increasing our exports. So rupee depreciation is very good for exports. So all exporters are actually enjoying when our currency depreciates, and there is no problem about it. If our currency depreciate and our aggregate demand, this is our growth, right? I remember this is my GDP. So even if my out of this, export is the major component of shifting this curve and increasing my GDP, I have absolutely no reason to worry. I should be happy about it. Okay. Whereas when my rupee appreciate, then this guy, instead of getting 70 rupees worth of good, is getting 65. Will he be interested in buying more quantities from us? No. Whereas we will be ready to import more, because what good I could buy from outside in 70 rupees, now I am able to buy in 65 rupees. Therefore, an increase, a depreciation in an appreciation in rupee will shift my aggregate curve backwards. Please try to understand this. This is very important to understand. Okay, all this. So this was my quantity. This was CIG, export minus import. I told you, if C increases, this will move. I increases, this will move. G increases, this export increases, this will move. And this E was dependent upon exchange rate. When my exchange rate, I will say rupee depreciated, then my export increased. Why? Because the foreigners, they were able to buy more, and hence they chose to import from our country, and hence our export increased. When the currency appreciated, now my import became more lucrative. Something which I was able to buy in 70 rupees, I am able to buy in 65 rupees. So my this AD curve shifts back. It comes here. My GDP basically is decreasing. Okay. So in fact, appreciation of your currency is leading to decrease in your GDP, whereas depreciation in currency was leading to increase in your GDP. I hope this part is clear. Okay guys? Yes, China intentionally, or at least they were blamed to keep their yuan or renminbi is what they are called. So now they kind of kept it down. So this US guys, they always found, now they are able to buy 10 yuan worth of good from $1, right? So what will happen? This is, if this is aggregate demand of China, will it go here or here? Naturally here. Whereas if they let it go down to 6 renminbi, what would happen? This will take a hit. In fact, Chinese will start importing things, and so if whatever their renminbi is like, $1 is equal to 7 renminbi, now what they are doing? They kind of made it $10. Renminbi, I have made rupee only. Yuan curve will shift backwards. I hope you have understood this, guys. This is very important concept. That is a good place to start, Amit. Nothing is sufficient in this world. The more you read, better you become. But if I say that's the bare minimum, I will really pity those who will not even go prepared with that much material. He is just going Bhagwan Bharose then. Okay guys, so this part is clear. Let us, now why can exchange rate change? So economists have their views. Suddenly the taste and preference can change. Okay, like just imagine what was the exchange rate before Nokia for whatever your Finland. What happened? Their exports were wonderful, and then because of change in taste to iPhone, where did their export took a hit, and what happened to the aggregate demand of US because of iPhone? Change in taste, relative incomes. Okay, now if the guys who are earning more will be able to, they will be more interested in buying our product, they will feel it more cheaper. Price of course is a factor. If the same good is there at 40 rupees and if it is in China is 20 rupees, even I will prefer to buy it from there, and then your global interest rate. This is tricky and this is very interesting. Okay, final, which is interest rate. Now, what happens when interest rate increases? When interest rate increases, suddenly the demand for Indian rupee will increase. Why? Because people will start selling their dollars and come and invest in Indian market, speculative investments, and they will try to invest in rupee term, and they will buy Indian stock or their Indian fixed deposits, or they will try to invest in Indian economy because here they will get more returns. Okay, they keep comparing their best possible, their opportunity cost of investing here. So this I, basically if your I increases, okay, if your the small I increases, the one was your investment increases, right? Decreases. This kind of decreased your GDP, right? If I goes down, your Signex I goes down, this will come down, no? But if I goes down, I goes up, lot of dollar will come in the market, they will start demanding for rupee. The rupee will basically appreciate. Okay? Because of this rupee appreciation, you will further take hit. Okay? So what monetary policy should be there? You should actually decrease, if your currency, if you guys are more dependent upon import, what you should do? You should decrease your interest rate so that there is some flight of capital. The rupee depreciate. The moment rupee depreciate, import will take a hit, and export will start normalizing. And the moment I goes down, your investment will also flourish. If I flourish, your this also goes up. So increasing interest rate is bad in a way for overall economy. Though you increase your forex reserve, but your growth is taking a hit. Okay. Now this is one question which I would like to show you, and with this if we have understood everything so far, you will like it. Effects of expansionary monetary policy. What I like to do draw similar curves for contractionary monetary policy, draw similar curve for expansionary fiscal policy, draw similar curve for contractionary fiscal policy. Okay, and then you will understand the economics. Whatever we have done so far, we have only laid down the basic. We have just laid our framework. Now let us look at this. One example I will do for you, which is very interesting. Okay, now see what happens. Interest rate, if I decrease interest rate in the economy, okay, what happens? There is decrease interest rate. Okay, so now the demand for money basically what I have done, expansionary monetary policy is this part. Expansionary monetary policy leads to decrease in interest rate by increasing money supply. RBI has pumped in more money. Basically what it has done, it has bought bonds and it has released money, right? And if wanted to suck the money out of the system, it would have issued bond, okay, and taken out the money. But here they have bought bonds and released money. Now because of this decrease interest rate, now I part of C, I, G and X, the investment part of it will take increase. Are you with me on this? On this part it was here. On this part more quantity will be demanded. Now look at this, your aggregate demand curve. So from AD1 it comes to AD2, and why this shift is happening? Because of the I component of the Signex. I hope you are able to see this. Increased money supply leads to decreased interest rate, leads to more investment demand, therefore shifting the aggregate demands towards right. I hope this is clear, guys. You have to understand this. Money supply increase, decrease interest rate. Decrease interest rate, increase investment and consumption also, which led to increase your aggregate demand. Okay. agreed, increased aggregate demand increases prices level and increase the GDP. This is from Y to Y final. I hope this part is clear, guys. Okay, this is where the fun becomes. If you have understood what I have taught in last 3 hours, you will be able to draw this for yourself. You will be able to decide for yourself at a given time in economy, when the economy is undergoing recession, what should government do? What monetary policy it should encourage its RBI to do, what fiscal policy it should take, what policy mix it should take. It's brilliant, guys. It's amazing. It's so much fun. Okay. Now, so what is happening in the short run? I goes down, I goes up, AD shifts right, prices level increase, and the output goes up, unemployment goes down. Net export effect, of course we cannot talk about at this point in time because of I reduction. Okay, yes, net effect, even if you will see, if I decrease the I, my the currency has also depreciated, guys. Because of this decreased I, there is some flight of capital, dollar running out, giving out more and more rupees. So my the demand for rupee has gone down, my rupee has depreciated, and again it has also had effect on my export. So this one down has kind of given me so many positive. Long run I goes up, long run average supply curve increases, shift right, same as the production possibility curve we have always discussed because of the investment. Okay, I hope this part is clear, guys. So decreased interest rate is so good for economy. Okay, so draw all possible curve, guys, for decrease now contractionary monetary policy, do for that. Expansionary fiscal policy, do for that. What will change there? The G will change there, right? Okay. So with this, guys, I think I will just come on the screen. I hope you have understood something. I tried very hard. I can understand it was very technical, but there was really nothing which you could not understand. You guys are appearing for SBI mains. Some of you are taking SSC CGL examination. This is the very basic of basics of economics that every single person needs to understand. Then you will understand if Modi is blabbering or Trump is, when he says I'll bring jobs, can he really do it? All those things you will be able to decide for yourself. You will see when government is asking for a decrease in interest rate, what is it, what kind of phase of economy we are in. Will that decrease in I help us? Will an increase in I would have better helped us? Should that decrease in I should also be clubbed with increase in government spending? What should a government do when it is facing recession, when it is facing overheating? All these things you can do yourself now. Okay, so that was the idea of giving you that basic. I hope you have learned something. I have tried my level best. Let's see. I'll just read your responses. I will take feedback from Abhishek sir also if this another session is required on this. But this is bare minimum. Please go through this lecture and the other 4 ones, and you have basic understanding of economics. Okay, guys, thank you very much. Thank you very much for kind of staying with me for 3 hours. I know it was long and technical. Thank you very much.